You're listening to STAGR Cast, brought to you by STAGR Gear.
All right, season 2 of STAGR Cast, episode 1, and we're kicking it off right. We got Travis Williams and his father, Bob. Travis is part of the Northwoods Whitetail crew. You know, you got a lot of good content coming from you guys this year, and more to come with that. But to dive right into this, why don't you guys give us a little background on who you are, where you're from, what you do, that type of stuff, and we'll dig into some deer stories. You want to start, Bob?
Yeah, I'm originally from Vermont, so I used to have green plates on my car. I've lived in New Hampshire now for probably 40 years. Avid deer hunter, sportsman, fisherman, and Travis, loved the lakes, and we loved to hunt, so we had it all here. And I sell real estate now.
Nice.
I used to work in the woolen industry, so I'm familiar with some of the woolen products that are out there today, and we just love to hunt as a family.
Yep. So you've been hunting since the very beginning, since you were a kid?
50 years, yeah.
Yep. So you laid the groundwork for Travis pretty good then.
Yeah, I hunted the old days in Vermont when if you didn't see 15 deer a day, you had a bad day of deer hunting.
Really?
But none of them had any horns.
Okay.
Before the doe permits and all that stuff.
Yep. No kidding. How about you, Travis?
Well, thanks for doing it, Dad. Thanks for moving to the Lakes region, and thanks for introducing me to hunting because it is my passion. I love it. Other than my family, it's the best thing that I have in my life is, I'm sure many listening and yourself, it's all about getting to that next deer season.
Absolutely.
But I'm a general sales manager. I've been in sales pretty much my whole life in one regard or another. And I live in Meredith, New Hampshire, and love to hunt and fish. Thanks a lot to my dad. At a young age, he started taking me to Pittsburgh, and can remember him saying when I first got into hunting, he felt like he was doing me a disservice because I wasn't shooting deer. The first deer I shot, I was 19, 20 years old.
You were 20, yeah.
And it was a 214-pound 7-pointer.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good dude. As a matter of fact, that day I had another 205-pound 7-pointer in the scope.
Wow.
So I'm thankful that he got me into, the woodsmanship, the big woods adventure, what's over the next ridge, what's around the next corner feel. If it weren't for him taking me and introducing me to that, I might be a tree stand hunter, which is nothing wrong with being a tree stand hunter.
Yep.
But for me, it just wouldn't have worked. I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
I hear you on that.
Not just the OC.
That's a lot of trackers like that same way. Yeah, no, I can't do that. You do some guiding for fishing and stuff too.
Yeah, so I was a hunting and a fishing guide. I fishing guided for 20 years, give or take.
Yep.
And I hunted guided and still do. I still have my guide's license, mainly for moose, since 2007 to present.
Yep. And
shot a lot of big bulls, made lasting friendships and memories with some of the most fantastic people on the planet.
Yep. So kind of going back to it, before we dive into the deer stories and stuff, going back to getting your kids, because there's a lot of guys that have kids and stuff that listen to the podcast. So going back to your days of getting him into it, did you just kind of like take him out in the big woods and kind of make him learn himself, or did you teach him along the way and took him with you along the way?
Sacrifice.
Yeah, no, and I took him all the time. I wouldn't go deer hunting without making sure he didn't want to go first.
Yep.
And I think the important part about taking a kid hunting is you can't be turning around telling him, be quiet all the time. I can't say, don't step on that branch. I teach him how to walk quietly and stuff. But if he's not having fun, he's going to lose interest and he's not going to go back out with me again. So my objective was always to have the kids, and I used to take my daughter with me all the time too. She's a couple of years older than Travis. And I just tried to make it fun for them. If they got cold, we went home. If they got warmed up, we went back out.
Yep.
Lots of treats in the pockets, lots of Snickers.
I made the old wooden stands when you used to be able to do that. Take a blanket up in a tree because he'd fall asleep in 2 minutes. But, that's how we learned. And some of our best hunts when he was a kid would be a half an hour watching a red squirrel chirp at him. So it wasn't all about, shooting a deer or anything like that. And Travis asked me years and years later as he got older and I started shooting bigger deer. And he said, Dad, how come all of a sudden you started shooting bigger deer? I said, because I wasn't lugging you through the woods.
That works.
Yeah.
Were you guys together on that first one you got, the 217?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
214. Yep.
Well, let's dive right into that story.
Sure,
'cause
that's
I'm
a good.
curious
That's
now.
a great story. So I loved the big woods, and I took to tracking just organically. I would follow tracks in the woods. So that day I had been hunting way up on a mountain. We had snow, and I was tracking. I was tracking. Per se, like I didn't know what I was doing, but I was following deer tracks, and it was this giant buck track. And long story short, I followed him around, flopped around up there, and finally, our good friend Skip was down in this low slash field, and he's a sitter, and he was seeing doe after doe for days. And I found myself all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm just above that slash field. I'm gonna poke my way down there and eat my Snickers, sit on a stump, regather my thoughts, whatever. And I sit down and I'm eating that Snicker bar, and all of a sudden I look up and here comes this buck. Well, deer. Left to right, walking through the slash. I can see its legs. I can see its body. I mean, it stopped 2 or 3 times. And I mean, I had my 7mm 3x9 Redfield on its rib cage, like clean shot, but just never saw antlers.
Yep.
Long story short, the deer left sight of me, and I look and here comes legs. I'm like, oh, here's another one. It was a hunter. Guy was tracking the buck. I get to that gentleman. We're having a quick conversation about, like, he's like, why didn't you shoot him? I'm like, I couldn't see antlers. I'm like 19, 20, whatever it was.
Yeah, I think 20. Yeah.
And boom, we hear a gunshot.
No shit.
It's our good friend Skip.
Okay.
Yeah.
And back then, I don't think we used radios or anything, so we went to the sound, and there's Skip, and there's a giant 205-pound 7-pointer laying in there.
Really?
And I'm happy for Skip.
So that's the one you were saying before.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
I am elated for Skip. Like, oh my God, awesome. Skip's not a huge fan of gutting deer, so I got the deer.
That was the first deer you actually ever gutted, because you always wanted to gut
Yep.
his own deer first.
Yep.
But I said, no, gut that deer for Skip.
And so I did, and dragged it out for Skip, and we had, the high fives and everything. And, finally the door shuts on the truck, and my dad and I are sitting there, and I said, Dad, I'm happy. I'm happy for Skip, but I'm an idiot. I just let a 205-pound doe walk by.
Just a little
Yeah.
frustrated.
And he's like, you did what I taught you to do, and that's not shoot unless you see antlers. And so I'm a little down, and typical Bob, never give up. We're not done. It's like 1:30. I'm soaked in sweat. Just gutted a 205-pounder, dragged it out to the road. And he's like, we're not done. Where was that buck track you saw earlier? I'm like, well, it's down, the valley up there. So we trudge up there. We get to the top, and here's that track. I mean, I don't know if it was the same buck or not. But, and he gets on the track. He's like, I'll take the track. You go this way. So I go to the right. He goes to the left. And we did have radios, right? We had radios back then.
We just had the old
Little walkie-talkies, whatever.
walkie-talkie.
And so I leave, we separate, and I'll let him go from here because this is what happened on his end, and then I'll tell you what happened on my side.
Okay.
Yeah, and typically that's what we used to do, 2-man hunts, and part of it was I always wanted to keep track of them. This is before, we used compasses, but we didn't have GPS and all that stuff, and we used to hunt ridge to ridge and meet you on top of the ridge and that type of thing, and we were doing that type of hunt after we split up, and the snow was starting to leave us quick, and it was getting real slippery on the leaves as it melted, and I'm walking down this bank towards where the buck had headed, and I slip and I fall and I start sliding down the bank. And as I am, this buck jumps up in front of me.
Shit.
And I take a shot as I'm sliding on my butt.
No kidding.
And it runs off in the general direction that he went in. And he heard the shot, and he's on the radio, goes, where is it? And I said, just friggin' look. And then next thing I know, I start hearing boom, boom, boom.
I'm pretty sure it was a different explicitive that you used.
Yeah.
So I had said to him, like, what happened? Because he doesn't usually miss. So I'm thinking, cool, you're going to be involved with 2 kills today that you screwed up, And he goes, just effing look. Yeah. And I'm in the rhubarb.
Yep.
Right? Might as well been the mountain laurel up on top of those
yeah.
Massachusetts mountains.
Yep.
So I bust through it because I kind of know where I am. And I look down this bank, and all of a sudden, all I see is Frank the Tank running straight at me.
Frank the Tank.
And he gets to within about 30 yards, and he knew something was up, and I put it on his neck. Boom. And I had some bad experiences as a young man where I thought I killed the deer, watching too many hunting shows. If you hunt in New England, you shoot more than once.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? I make the argument that it is ethical because we have snow, we have no gates, we have no private land where we hunt for the most part. So anyway, I shot at him 3 or 4 times and we dumped him. But what a buck, what a day. And then to be able to be part of that with camp and go back. And he used to have a ritual where he would bring the deer heart in. So like you come in for the night and what did you see? And he'd just reach into his pocket, put the deer heart on the table.
Yeah.
I like that.
So I walked in. They were actually at the Indian Stream Eatery in Pittsburgh.
Okay. Yep.
When that was open.
And I walked in and I just walked in and they go, what'd you guys see today? And it's right on the
Right
table.
on the table.
What? And I mean, it was a 21-inch inside spread. Giant. I mean, it's like a 130-inch 7-point.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
It's not on the wall here. It's at his house.
There is
But
one
you
other
can-
part to that story, too, is he was so certain that I had probably hit the deer.
Oh, that's
If I
right.
hadn't killed it, I must have wounded it. So I got to him where the deer was down, and he goes, Dad, but you hit it. I went, I never hit it. I didn't have a great shot, but I took a shot. He tracked it all the way back to my boot track where I shot before he believed me that I did not wound this deer, because he wanted to make sure that he'd shot this deer on his own.
Yep.
And
Because he's a great father, and he would do that. He'd be like, "Ah, you got him. Good job, son."
Yep.
yeah,
I wasn't about to have it.
I
No.
don't know if I would have done that. No.
So you guys, at camp that day, you guys had your 217 and then Skip's 205?
205. Yeah.
205. Wow.
Both sevens, by the way.
Both 7-pointers.
Both 7-pointers.
No kidding.
And to add to that, I've killed 2 over 200, both 7-pointers.
Really?
And I've killed a pile. of
All in the
7-pointers.
general ridge line, areas
same general
too.
vicinity,
Within
Yep.
10 square miles,
Yeah.
We since have branched off from that region. That was where I grew up hunting. And then I was a big part of like being like, guys, they're kind of set in their ways. This is where they like to hunt. And I started to expand. And I just love roaming. That's my thing.
Yeah, and that's part of the story too, is as much as I taught Travis taught us and my hunting buddies so much more, because he was willing to take it to the next level.
Yep.
And he wasn't satisfied with what we were telling him. He was going like,
Yep.
no, Dad, you got to do it this way. No, you got to ride the roads and you got to look for the tracks. It's sort of like, instead of still fishing out of the boat or off the dock, you've got to cover some territories. You got to go trolling, and that changed a lot of our styles of hunting. And more important, it got us off the ridges we always hunt because they were a good place. And we learned that if they weren't here today, then don't keep hunting them because they're not here. You got to go somewhere else, And
Well, I had a profound moment in Pittsburgh, and I hope there's a lot of listeners of this podcast. Adam, you do an amazing job with it.
Thank you.
And I'm hoping that the people that were standing around this circle that day are listening right now, and one of them can reach out to me. But we were at I don't remember where it was. It was where the payphone was back in the day.
Yeah.
And I don't know if somebody had checked in a deer or you're just using the
over
payphone.
by the Wander Inn payphone up on Route 3.
It's where they used to check in the deer
Yep.
back in the
Yep.
day. And this was back when Will Stats, the biologist, was there checking in deer.
Yeah.
Will's a legend. Everybody
Yeah.
knows
He
that.
killed some great bucks.
Oh, man.
Nice guy.
Oh, yeah, great guy. We used to have a lot of good conversations. And so Will was talking to a group of guys, trackers. This guy had just checked in a monster, like 235-pound 9-pointer. And I'm standing there like 12, 13, 14 years old, just jaw-dropping, just listening to all these stories. And this guy, and I'm asking questions, and they're just talking, And actually, at one point, I ran back to the truck, and I'm like, Dad, is it okay if I go over there and keep listening? He's like, go ahead. I mean, you might have been on the payphone. I don't really recall. But I have so fond memories from that moment. Like, I remember there was a guy, they called him Papa. He had a white beard, shorter guy. It was Will, and just a bunch of Vermonters. And they were talking about the Golden Road days and shooting this buck and tracking him to their bed and having him stand up and shake the snow off him. And I looked at the old buck, and I said, hey, old buck is probably my age now, right? And I said, hey, I want to do what you guys do, because it lends itself well to my personality. I can't sit. I hate it. If I sit down, I go, what's over there? I should be sitting over there.
Yep.
Or I should.
No, I feel you on that all day.
So he goes, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to shoot big bucks. He said, well, then don't shoot the little ones.
Yeah.
Right?
Piece of advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just think about that for a second. Just don't shoot the little ones. And that's hard for some hunters to do. And if you want to shoot a little deer or a...
Yeah, if you don't care about that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And to me, it's all about the hunt, not about the size of the animal. And then he said, the meat that goes in the freezer lasts a season. The bones that go on the wall last a lifetime.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I'm going to tell you right now, it changed me. And then My first buck was a 214-pound, 130-inch 7-pointer, and I was really in trouble.
Yeah. That's
As
something.
we were trying to tamp him down, saying, you're never going to shoot one bigger. But that wasn't true.
I did.
Sure enough, right?
And I'm going to shoot one bigger than that one, too.
Yep. So you kind of gave Travis the tools growing up and getting into hunting. You gave him the tools, and he kind of expanded upon that.
Totally expanded.
Brought it back to you guys at camp, and you guys kind of went from there. That's
did.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's generation hunting right there, and everybody expanding on it. But that's So you guys kind of cut your teeth up in Pittsburgh, up that way.
Yeah, we did a lot of our hunting up in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
I did hunt up in the Northeast Kingdom. When I was when I first got married, I had a friend that had a camp up by Craftsbury.
Yep.
So we used to go up there and hunt. My wife used to hunt and actually shot a deer. Travis's mom shot a deer while I was hunting in Pittsburgh, and I hadn't got my deer yet, so that really put the pressure on me
That was a long ride home from Pittsburgh for you.
Yeah, but yeah, that's really like Pittsburgh was the place. We loved going to camp. We had a great group of guys. We had fun. We played cards. We drank beer, but we really were there to hunt.
Yep.
Dark to dark.
Dark to dark. We go in the woods. When we first used to go, we used to come out and have a lunch. Go back to the truck because that was the way my uncles and stuff had taught me.
Yeah. Yep.
I soon learned that was way too much work. Why are we even coming out of the woods? So we changed that and then Travis really got us on to, Dad, why are you hunting here? It was the same old, it's always been good.
Yep.
Well, they're not here. So he would drag us further and further out and, down different roads, and he would go ride roads and find different ridges for us to hunt. And that's how we, really evolved into what we do now.
Yep. Are you guys still using that deer camp up there? Or is it still around or not as much?
It wasn't our deer camp. We used to, rent rent the same place for years and years. Travis had a connection that we used to go to, and but we still go to Pittsburgh. There's still something about going to camp with some of my buddies. Mm-hmm. But, the whole camp life is different than shooting one from home.
Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah. That deer camp, it's all heritage. It's
the stories you tell when you get back. It's that bond. You may have had a horrible day and be like, there's not a deer within 30 miles of where I'm at. And then you come back and your buddy saw a giant, and all of a sudden you're drinking your electrolytes, you're stretching, and you're in bed at 7 a.m.
Yep.
Or 7 p.m. rather.
Yeah.
And you're back out, and you're in the truck at 3:30 in the morning looking for tracks.
Yep.
So, I love the camp life, and it's changed through the years because I don't have a lot of friends my age that do what I love, and I think that's why things like Northwoods Whitetails and STAGR Cast are so important, because you're giving the youth a little porthole into this amazing opportunity and adventure and lifestyle that we've all enjoyed. And having that legacy to me is honestly one of the biggest reasons why I'm willing to do this stuff, because it needs to be said. People need to understand how amazing this is. And if I didn't have a father like I did, I may not have experienced it. I may not have the lifestyle that I have now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's nothing like big woods hunting, really.
It's
you
nothing
boil it
like
down,
it.
you can watch all the. Go ahead. What are you saying?
Yeah, no, there's nothing like being out in the big woods, and it's not about the deer. It's about the hunt. It's I take pictures of this is where I had my lunch, and I hope everybody's having fun at work today.
Mm-hmm. To that point, and this is something that I don't know when we talked about it, but for years when we're done for the day, it's not about what did you see. Even when we kill a deer, how was the hunt is always the question.
Yep.
How was the hunt?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a good hunt today?
It's all about the
Well, I didn't see anything. Yeah, but did you have a good hunt? And, then
sometimes they're not good.
Yeah, sometimes
you end up in a swamp and you go, well, I can keep going.
Yeah.
I see daylight over there, and then that daylight's a marsh.
Yeah.
But then you're stubborn like I am because you've already gone so far you're not going to turn around, and you're standing in, waist-deep muck.
I did that this year one time, You turn around the right spot, and
you keep going, I can keep pushing.
Yeah, we get there. It's closer this way than going back out to a log and run, spin around. But
That's what I call flopping.
Oh, yeah.
That's a Greg song.
That happened to me up by the Golden Road when we were up there.
Yeah.
I got in a swamp tracking that buck.
Got your tit in a ring is what you did.
Yeah. He was a quarter of a mile from me sitting in the truck, and I couldn't get to him. The snow was that deep. The swamp was that bad.
Just buried in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I told Trav, I said, if you hear a gunshot, I'm not shooting a deer.
Yeah.
I'm shooting myself because I can't leave.
Yeah. So going from Pittsburgh, you guys eventually migrated up to Maine, and you guys both hunt Maine now, right?
Yeah, we
So
do.
when did that transition from going, just New Hampshire, Pittsburgh up to Maine?
I don't really know the date, but we just kind of went one day like, Jesus, we're not hunting Maine. As I got a little older, I started to get more of a career and had more time.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want to, now that I'm on the preface of time, like, one thing I want all the listeners to realize, because I have people that come up to me every once in a while, and I'm just Travis. I'm nothing special. I'm a deer hunter that likes to do it. I'm not a great deer hunter. I love doing it. But, when you look at these podcasts, you listen to these podcasts, or you watch these YouTube videos, realize that a lot of these guys have a lot of time.
That's a big.
So try not to compare yourself to everybody. Try not to get wrapped up in social media. It's so easy to do. I'm guilty of it.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy yourself. Shoot what you want to shoot. It's all about the hunt. And realize that the guy that's shooting a mature buck every year has a lot of time.
It's true.
And he's making a lot of sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a weekend warrior and you put your tag on an animal,
mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's a 108-pound doe or if it's a 300-pound 42-pointer.
Mm-hmm.
You're accomplishing something.
It's true. Yeah.
So be happy.
Exactly.
So as I started to have more time, we wanted to expand because, it's tough to pass up deer when you have a week or a weekend. And we didn't have that. We had more time, so we started being more selective. And then we started to kind of expand, and we started hunting Maine.
Yeah, and we did, the first time we went to Maine, we went up there with great ambitions that we were going to hunt for a long time, and we hunted one day. I think the first year we went to Maine.
Another good story.
Yeah, we drove up to Lincoln Pond or Lincoln Road.
Lincoln Pond Road.
Yeah, Lincoln Pond Road, up in that area, and we had one day to hunt. And then the next year, we decided we were going to go try to do the same thing. We went up and rented a room at Arrow Motel, and you ended up you shot a deer.
Well, that year you had said, "Why don't you put in for a doe tag?" Because
Yeah.
we just started hunting Maine, and we're just trying to get more hunting. And we had hunted this area. I'd actually passed up a 6-pointer the very first year we hunted there because it crossed a migration trail right in front of me. And I'm not going to shoot a deer from the road. I don't care how big it is. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, I feel you.
Again, it's about the hunt, not the deer. So I ended up almost shooting him later because I saw him in the woods. I'm like, well, now I'm going to shoot you. But anyway, so I kind of knew the area, and I came through this swamp, and there's all these plateaus, and I'm peeking on the plateaus. I look down the bank, and there's this deer laying in its bed. Didn't even know it was a buck. Pulled up, shot it. It was a spike horn. And we dragged that one out. Bad drag. Horrible. And the funny part is, to back up a bit, we had done a little driving around trying to figure out where we'd even check in a deer because we never really hunted here other than the previous year for one day.
Yep.
And we ran into a couple game wardens.
They were checking
And
at
it
the
was
checking
super,
station,
super warm. And he's like, listen, guys, we're like picking their brains for where to go and stuff. And he's like, good luck,
Yeah.
You got to wait for the snow. You got to hunt north. You got to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so he's like, you got to sneak. You got to kind of try and catch them in their beds. So that very next day, I shoot that one. We still have the buck in the back because we couldn't check it in because nobody was there. There was like a note in the door. And so we drove around and stuff, and we get to this. I'm like, Dad, look, this is the same type of terrain. It's got a little swamp up there. There's all these plateaus. Why don't you go poke your way up there? He's like, you know what? Why not? I got to get out of the truck.
Let me out of the truck.
So he goes up the ridge. I turn around and come back.
Yeah, we had a radio, and I'm calling him, and he's going, "What's the matter?" And he says, "It's a dead end, Dad." He said, there's a log laying, and I turned around. I'm going to go check some other roads out. You just keep hunting. I'll come back and get you at dark. I said, I got one. And he says, you can't have one. I said, yeah. I walked up, and just like you said, I went up on the first plateau. I said, geez, I think that's a deer looking at me. And I think that was a 6 or a 7-pointer.
7-pointer weighed 177.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was looking right at me, and I shot him in the white of the throat. And, I was up field dressing him when he calls me on the radio because I never thought I was going to hear from him because I didn't know if the road went for 20 miles that we were on because we'd never been there. And he comes back. He goes, there's no way. I said, just park the truck and come help me.
Get your ass up here.
So we did, and we threw them both in the truck, and we went back down to the...
And the game wardens were there.
And the game wardens were there, and I said to the game warden, I said, you gave us good advice. You said, just look for some ridges and hunt the plateaus, and it worked.
And you got to catch them in their beds. When we caught 2 of them in their beds, they looked at us, they're like, come on.
Yeah,
we got lucky, but
we went back
were
to the
happy to do
motel,
so.
and we'd rented it for 2 nights, and we shot our deer the first day.
Can't beat that then.
No, that was
Yeah,
a pretty good hunt.
That's a heck of a
And we were
heck of a
hooked
way.
on Maine at that point,
Yeah, that
obviously.
was good.
Yeah.
Good experience.
Huh. No kidding. That's awesome. It's always when you least expect it like that. I've been in situations like that where people get out of the truck and then sure as shit, 5 minutes later, they get a deer on the
Yeah.
ground. It's
Well, and that's why I love hunting new country. You have no preconceived
Mm-hmm.
notions. You're just hunting. And, you know, same thing with like, I'm not a big camera guy. And the reason I'm not a big camera guy is I like the thrill of the unknown. Maybe that's why I don't sit well.
You mean
know?
cell phone? You mean game camera?
Game cameras.
Game cameras,
Cell phone
yeah.
cameras I really don't like, but cameras in general. And I mean, I'm not going to say I own a bunch, and I've used them throughout the years.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just not a big fan because, like, when I pick up a buck track, what's fun for me is, you know, what's he got on his head? Is he walking around stuff? Do I see antler marks in the snow? You're putting the pieces of the puzzle together as you go. You're a hunter. You're a woodsman. There's so many skills. And for me, it's about hunting. For me, is about the self-challenge. And there's very few things in this world that we have left that we can do that there's no unknown. The only other thing is don't find out if you have a baby if it's sex.
Yeah, exactly.
And nowadays, I feel bad for the younger generation because of all this technology. They don't get that gift because, and I'm not saying everybody. I'm sure there's people that do what I do and they don't use cell phone cameras or cameras in general, and they're picking up buck tracks and following them and figuring it out and killing great big bucks. But I feel like too many are relying on technology. And of course you can be successful that way. You've got so many advantages, right? If you run 20, 30, 40, 50 cell phone cameras like some of these guys are running,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
it's not hunting anymore. It's no longer hunting. It's 24 hours, 7 days a week surveillance.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't do, if that's how you want to hunt,
Yeah.
go ahead. That's you. Not everybody wants to follow a buck track for 17 miles like some people I know and kill it, you know. I personally like to do that, and I personally like to not know what's in front of me. I want to find out what's in front of me.
Yep.
That's the reward.
Yeah, the unknown of it. It keeps you guessing the whole time, like you said. And,
Absolutely.
And yeah, like you said, a lot of the younger generation having the cameras and stuff, you can get spun out so fast, right? Like if you haven't had a picture, say, in 5 days or whatever, like that deer could have walked behind the tree with the camera on it. You know, you never know.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I'm guilty of. When I did run them, I'd keep going back to check my camera, and I'm not hunting the way that I enjoy hunting anymore. I enjoy hunting to look for new ground. I enjoy, and probably to a fault, and this is what got us on this tyrant, is checking out new ground and the unknown and how you hunt when you're on new ground. It's like you're learning all over again.
Yes.
In the adventure of, and I think what drives me, and I said it when I was a guide for fishing, is like, when am I going to have that day? That day where I catch 5-pound salmon. Or, and then when you do, what about the time I catch 10? When you find that spot, when you come up over that ridge and there's 3 signpost rubs, 2 bucks fought right here. Oh my God,
Yeah,
this
you
is
found
it,
it.
right?
Yep.
You're always looking for that next holy grail. And that's what drives me. That next big buck,
Yep.
you know? And I look at some of the bucks, a lot of our friends, people that we rub elbows with have shot, and I've never shot one like that. And maybe I never will, but that's what drives me.
Yep.
Well, and even with the GPS too, and I think I've told you, I've fallen into the trap with the GPS of, in the big ridges and stuff that we hunt, I've got dozens of waypoints that, big buck track, big scrape and stuff. And I told Trav, I said, I found myself always hunting towards my old waypoint. And I said, I'm not learning anything new by going back to the same place that I saw a sign at last year. And I get there and go, there's no sign here this year. And I started deleting some of the waypoints because I found myself getting in the woods. Oh, I'm going to go this way when I should just be reading what's in front of me and not what I read last 2 years ago.
Yep.
It might be 3 years ago that I'm looking at a waypoint that says big buck sign.
Yep. Everything changes.
And everything changes.
Yeah,
So,
it's the same with fishing. Like I do a lot of bass fishing, tournament fishing, and,
Oh, cool.
and that memory of spots and stuff keep
Right,
you from
you get
looking for
stuck
new
on it.
stuff. And
yeah, you stop learning.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And you kind of put yourself in a box, and if it's not happening here, then you kind of get yourself spun out. But like
agree.
this year in New Hampshire, this is the first year I've rifle hunted in New Hampshire and stuff, and I followed more bucks through new territory this year. And the stuff I found, the feeling you get when you find that new area following a buck and seeing all the stuff, it's just, there's nothing like that feeling you get. Like I can't wait to get back out there next year. It's
there's, and then, so we've talked about some of the hunts we've had, and we really haven't gotten into any tracking hunts, but as I matured as a hunter and as I learned and read books and just had time. I mean, I tracked a lot of bucks without killing one. I can't tell you how many.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then I started killing them, and it just clicked.
Light switch.
And it's,
Yep.
you know, it's just like, and I'm not saying I have anything figured out. I learn every year. I learn something new,
Absolutely.
and that's what also drives me is like that education that you get. I mean, we were talking about it before you came. You know, backtracking bucks, backtracking does. Like, this is the dude. It's 3-day old track, but I got to learn something about this deer. What's he doing? What's his behaviors? And every time you track a deer, you learn. And it's the only time that my brain is completely shut off.
That's the beauty of it.
Yep. No other worries in the world.
Yeah.
It's it. You are
Yep.
so engaged with the activity in front of you that I am not thinking about, which for me, I told you I had A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
which for me is a very big deal, you know, and that is unequivocally what drives me to tracking specifically. Big woods hunting's awesome. Love it. I'm a horrible still hunter. I've killed some bucks still hunting. I'm too impatient. I can't sit. I hunt with John Wright. He tells me to take one step every 5 seconds. I can't do that. Got to sound like a deer. I'm trying.
That bear ground hunting is tough. It's still hunting.
There's guys,
bear ground
and they call it an art form. There's guys that are really good at it.
It is an art. It is.
I feel like I'm a pretty good tracker because I don't have the word quit doesn't exist. I love it. I will not leave the track unless it's dark or I'm going to die.
Yep. Yeah.
Been known to walk across a couple rivers.
Yeah, there's nothing that's going to stop me.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
just nothing.
Just gonna go.
Yeah.
That's a tracker's mentality. That's what you got.
I love it.
You either come out with a buck, or you come out in the dark, and whatever happens, happens.
Which, maybe we'll just dive into this year's hunt. So we were hunting in Maine, and we had this chunk of woods we like. I killed a really big buck up there last year. And
last day buck last year, right?
Last day buck.
Yep,
Yeah,
that was a great
snowstorm
one.
buck.
Yep.
Yeah, great buck. Ton of fun. We can talk about that one too. But
Yep.
Actually, kind of the rule we have, because, I hunt with my father exclusively. Like,
Yep.
I mean, I hunt with some other friends and stuff, but we pretty
Or
much
alone.
do.
Or you hunt alone. Yeah.
Or alone, right? But I mean, if I'm hunting and he wants to come or whatever, we're gonna hunt together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when I say together, I mean we're 4 or 5 miles apart most of the time, but we're in the same vicinity.
Yeah, we know who each other is,
And so a lot of times we'll kind of like, I'll pick a day or two, and then he'll pick a day or two. Like, and this day, he was like, "Let's go. I want to go back up there. Like, I got into some good sign. I wanted to go, on a walkabout.
Yeah, we did your hunt the day before.
Yeah.
We did mine the
And
next
I did
day.
9 miles and didn't cut a buck track.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I cover more ground when I'm looking for a buck track than when I'm tracking a buck.
Flying through the woods.
Because you're just going. Like,
Yeah.
the gun's on my shoulder, I'm just walking. Anyway, so I had gotten all the way to the top of this mountain. It's like a 2,800, 3,000 footer. And hadn't heard from him all day because he's on the other side of the mountain. And I finally get into some buck sign. Actually saw a green rub and getting excited. Like, all right, here we go. I mean, it was brand new snow. It was just snowing. Pretty good snow, too. The snow was falling good. Excited.
Yeah, we had 2 or 3 inches. Yeah.
Just, that first day,
Of
stomach's turning. You're just
fired up. inside.
Fired up.
Yeah.
Just enjoying every single moment. And I get to the top of the mountain, and I'm kind of trying to sort things out there, and all of a sudden I hear, boom, boom. I'm like, that's Bobby.
That's Bob. That's Bob.
Gotta be Bobby.
Yeah.
And I call him on the radio, nothing. Nothing. Well, I keep looking for the track, whatever. I'm trying to sort. There was a decent buck right there where I was. I don't think he was anything special, but I was gonna go see what I could do with him. And all of a sudden, just give me a minute. I hear over the radio. I'm like, well, that
Stop
means
bothering me.
that means he shot. So
Yeah.
I start heading, and so I'm just beelining it to the last known location where he was, which was like 1.5 miles away. And you can tell what led up to the boom boom.
Yeah, I was just following some, actually a family of does, a doe and probably a couple skippers.
Yep.
And that's like Travis and I were talking, like a lot of my tracking is, I'm not as hardcore. Like if I see the dude's track, then I'm gone. I'm going to follow that deer all day long. If I see mediocre, what I consider to be a mediocre buck or something, I'll track him as long as he's going where I want to go.
Okay.
And if he peels off, I'm going to go look for something better. in this particular instance, I was just following these doe tracks because I said, follow deer, they're going to take me to more deer. And I came across this decent buck track that was walking towards me. And all of a sudden I look and I went, this deer was here right now. And he stopped. And I think he winded me because of the way it was sleeting and snowing. And I didn't have the wind in my favor. And I said, I know I came around the corner. I know he winded me because he walked here. I can see where he put his feet. And he turned around and he walked back the other way. And I'm standing there looking up in the sleet and the fog, and there's a buck looking at me, silhouetted against the horizon. He was on a game trail.
Yep.
But he was head on, and I made that shot before.
You're just telling us about a buck like that.
Yeah. And it was probably, 75, 85 yards or something, and I had no rest. I was caught. And I took a shot, and the deer didn't move. And now I'm going, did I even shoot at a deer? And I looked, and I said, I said, okay, you whiffed. Shoot again because you had to miss him clean or he'd be running. And I shoot, and he kind of made a move, and he went straight down the bank. And I hit him that time, but as it turns out, I hit him in the, right front shoulder, and didn't hit anything that was going to kill him. But I followed him down the bank and got some blood, and then I tracked him for 2 or 3 hours. And Travis did a swing around me, and the deer actually almost walked up to him before we met up.
So I finally get down to the road. So where he was when he first shot and where he ended up, because he tracked the deer for 2 or 3 miles there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I get down to the road, and I'm like, well, where the hell are you? And I look down through the woods, and I can see him. I'm like, well, there's no sense in us double teaming this thing because you're going into a shithole. Yeah. I know where you're headed. It ain't good.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to run up the road. And I physically ran. I'm old and I'm fat, but I ran up the road. And I cut out that other logging road, and I finally got out in front of, which I thought I was out in front of him. And long story short, the deer literally almost ran right into me.
We just 2 points connected at the exact same time, huh?
Yeah. It was the old hell blood 2 points connect. Yep. And I don't know what happened, honestly, right now. Like, I could relive it 7 times. Yeah. I think he, must have known I was there with a little bit of wind or something and just circled around me or just got lucky.
And it was still sleeting pretty good.
It's snowing and blowing like you believe. It was that Wednesday, second week, I think.
It was the same day I get mine and you get yours, that first real heavy snowstorm.
There you go.
Yeah,
it was not pleasant. It's kind of like the day I killed the buck up there last year.
Yep.
Yeah, looking into it with the wind blowing in your face, you couldn't see. It stung your eyes.
Oh, yeah. I have a little footage that probably will be on Northwoods Whitetails page at some point that I'm walking up through, then I say, so you sure you want to be a buck tracker? Yeah. Because I'm telling you, the sleet was popping off the GoPro there. And we're motoring up through, and we know we have to go on this buck because he's leaking a little, not much. I mean, we'd go hundreds of yards with no blood.
Yep.
And we get to the top of this cut, and he's sending me 2 or 3 times. He's like, I should just let you go. I should just let you go. And I'm like, Dad, it's your buck. We're going to get him.
Was he bedding down along the way?
Never
after
bedded.
No,
he
was
miles.
Okay,
he was going to live. I mean,
he was dragging his front leg some.
Yeah, every once in a while he's kicking his leg. You could tell it.
But he was going up and down. You couldn't figure out where to hit him. He would go uphill. He'd go downhill.
It basically meat hit him right in the front right shoulder, in and out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And finally he looks at me and he's like, "Go get him." Well, I'm like, "Are you sure?"
Just leading up to that a little bit, we hit this huge clear cut, and as we came to the clear cut, he looks, he's looking all through the clear cut. I'm still looking at the tracks, which is something you have to teach yourself not to keep looking at the tracks, but you're going to be looking for the deer. Mm-hmm. And he's looking, he goes, Dad, he's not here. Go, go, go. And I turned around and looked at him. I said, I'm 69 years old. I'm going as hard as I can. There's not a whole lot of go, go, go left.
and I'll say this. There's not a lot of 69-year-olds that can keep up with him. So earlier this year, we were hunting on bare ground. Muzzleloader hunting. We're 7 miles. As a crow flies, GPS from the road, we're 3.5. But 7, 8, 9 mile hike. And I told him, I said, Dad, I'm going to end up on top of that mountain, but don't feel like you have to. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wrote him off. I'm like, in terms of communicating with him, because he's not up here. All of a sudden I hear snap. There's Bob. Well, geez, I just poked up the backside there. This ain't nothing. I'm like, so he's a machine. He gets up every morning and does push-ups, sit-ups. I mean, I probably can't even keep up with him. But anyway, so we get to the top of that clear cut, and he's like, I just keep envisioning this beautiful buck, and I don't want him to just die out here.
Yeah, I don't want to wound this animal, and I can't catch up to him.
And I'm pretty confident if I take the collar off the dog, you're going to go kill him.
Yeah.
So I went, and I mean, I didn't even get 200 yards from you, and I was motivating, but still, we weren't that far, and I look up, and here he is. Pull up. Boom.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Peep sight.
I mean, he just had walked around the corner and left me when he shot at it the first
And
time.
now I'm kind of kicking myself, like, should I have waited? Should I have not? But then on the, I'm off, I'm gone, And I didn't really go to where I shot. I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive I hit him in the back of the leg. Because there was some hair and blood and whatever.
blood.
And he went left to right across the cut. Moose, we're going by Moose. I forget, and I'm motivating. Get to the other end of the cut. And I look up and I see a deer standing there looking at me, and I pull the peep gun up. Now, I've hunted with a peep gun before. I just picked this gun up this year because I had some issues last year with my scope gun. Not sure if it's the right call. We'll see. The jury's out on that. For me, not saying people shouldn't hunt with peep guns. I think you should. But this deer standing looking at me, and he's only 120 yards away, but he's just on the edge of the green growth. And, I knew to slow down. I was scanning because I was getting to the edge of that stuff. And as a tracker, those transitions. And, I get the peep on him, but I can't. I see horns. So I don't shoot. But I kept the bead on him. And I start blatting. And finally he goes, boom, I chuck one at him.
Yep.
At this point, my GoPro had malfunctioned. I tried to change the battery. The door went flying. I'm frustrated. I throw it in the bag. That's the end of the video footage. Sorry, Northwoods Whitetails fans. So I track the buck. I go another mile or so, and he starts to meander again. It's thick. And I look, and I see him laying in his bed, and I can just see his ass. And I'm like, that's him. I know it's him. And I'm trying to maneuver. Up he goes. Down he goes.
Jeez.
Track him again. I'm going. I go good another mile, and I bumped him again because he started to walk, then he's running again. I'm like, he saw me, winded me, something. Goes down, crosses the grassy road, gets into the swaley stuff, and now I'm starting to slow down a little bit. I've been going all day. Meanwhile, keep in mind, I've already hiked the 3,000 footer. Now I'm back down the other side. I've gone halfway up a 4,000 footer. Now I'm
dogging him.
Then I'm going.
Yeah.
And I get down in there, and Adam, I almost stepped on this deer. I wish to God I was rolling.
Yeah.
8 yards.
Just popped up out of his
Just
bed looking at you? Or?
Right in the swale.
No shit.
Got up and headed.
Jeez.
And I still can't believe I didn't dump him. I pull it, boom, boom. I'm like, how is this deer still on its feet?
Yeah.
And I keep going. I'm going. I'm tracking this buck, and there's a little bit more blood, and I'm pretty sure I hit him again. There is a story at the end of this as to why, at least my story. So I go a little bit further, and I'm on this logging road. And those logging roads, we get those real thick edges.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I look
All the spruce.
through the sprucey edge, and 30 yards in front of me, he's limping along. I bust through it, chuck one at him, which was a horrible shot. He wasn't even in the peep. He goes down across this brook, and I got a pretty good one at him and disappears. Off I go, stumble through the brook, flop around the other side, go a little bit, and he's laying in his bed. Again, I can't see antlers, and I'm not going to shoot unless I can see antlers.
Yep.
Just not going to do it.
Shoot the wrong deer.
Identify your
And it's starting to
target
get
all
dark.
day. Yep.
It's 3:30. He's laying there. I'm not sure. He jumps up. It was him. I don't think I shot that time. We go down across the road. I'm like bewildered as to what road this is. I don't even know where I am at this point. And as soon as I cross the road, another transition, I'm looking. I'm like, he's going to be right here. Sure enough, he's 150, 200 yards down through the hardwoods, standing there looking at me. And all I can see is his rib cage, a little bit, like his back end. So I'm like, I'm going to take 3 or 4 steps to the left. I'm going to get a rest, and I'm going to finish this right here. Take 3 or 4 steps to the left, go to pull up, and he's running.
Son of a bitch.
Boom! I shoot again. Finally, I stopped down in there.
I was going to bring ammo for him.
Yeah, he was like,
I was going to ask you how many shots you had at this point.
I think it was 11 total.
No shit.
By the end of the day.
So I get down into this. Now I kind of like, I think I'm in those strip cuts. I don't know where I am really, but the woods are changing. I think I can catch him in this stuff. And I remember stopping and just being like, my whole body was a heartbeat. You need to just slow down and kill this deer. It's now it was probably 4.
Yeah.
Crunch time.
We had like 15 minutes of
It was
legal shooting.
Yeah, it was getting dark.
And I just started to go slow. And it was so hard for me to do because I go, and I'm going slow, and I peek down the bank, and there he is laying in his bed. And in that same scenario, I'm like, I'm not going to see antlers. And luckily, he swung his head, and I saw a bone, and boom, got one into him, and ended up getting a couple more into him. But the part that I missed is when we separated, which is how we kind of got on this story. I looked at him, I said, Dad, I love you. I'm going to kill this buck or I'm going to die in the mountain trying.
Yeah, exactly. I said, well, let's just give it a good shot. You know,
And I'm going to
nobody
tell
has
you,
to die.
I was seasoned. Both my hamstrings were cramping. My quads were
Yeah.
cramping. I mean, a young buck like you probably been fine, but I'm fat and old, so it hurt me a little bit.
While he was doing all this too, I continued to track him and the deer, and depending on the terrain, I might take a swing and and hope that I would cut it off and stuff like that. And in the distance, I'd hear boom, boom every now and then.
It's like being in Iraq.
Yeah, there was no radio we weren't going to talk to each other on radio. It was just too much in between us and stuff.
Yeah.
And, finally I kept saying, he can't still be shooting. And
Sure enough.
I finally said, well, I'm going to go back to the truck. And I get to the truck, and lo and behold, a truck comes up the road, and now it's getting dark, but it's not dark yet. And the guy's talking to me, you seen anything? And of course, I'd tell the typical lie, no. And he goes, I heard somebody shoot around 9, which was me. And he said, I came from the other side of the mountain. I heard 2 shots. And I haven't seen anything. Some doe tracks. And,
Sorry, guy, if you're listening.
yeah. and then way in the distance, because now I'm still listening. And the guy's talking, and I'm just thinking about, I got to get in the truck. I go find where Travis is. And I hear, boom, way off in the distance. But I know the area, and I'm thinking, he's got him down by the brook. So the guy goes, I said, did you hear a gunshot? And he goes, no. I'm thinking, good. and I said, well, I got to go find my son. I'll see you later. So he drives off, and I drive down the road and start trying to reach my radio contact. And finally I go, sure enough, I'm close to him. And I went, sweet, Trav. He says, I got him. We're down by the brook. And I said, oh, good. And it's only 0.16 of a mile from
Well, the funny
Skid
part
Row.
was when I told him I got him, he said, what? Really? Because he had no idea I shot the buck.
Yeah.
He thought I just kept running.
I thought it was
shooting
just
and
another shot.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yep.
And then what a drag. For
Bad,
a .19 or whatever
that's
it was.
Oh,
Worst drag of my life.
really?
It was
Just
in a
Up
hole,
and down hummocks and cuts and
no, it's just thicker than
down
hell,
at the
brutal.
brook valley.
and it was dark. Now it's
horrible.
it was storming, so when the lights went out, it was dark, and we had our headlamps. But I said, I got the jet sled in the back of the truck. You want me to bring that? And he goes, yeah, it was the worst idea I ever had because the
You
spruce
spent the night in
Just
the
too
woods.
thick.
the spruce,
Yeah.
I couldn't carry it, and so we got it to I got it to the deer. We threw the deer in it. We couldn't drag it. We left it in the woods. We GPS'd it, and he was cramping so bad, and I wasn't much help. And we're trying to come up this steep bank. I said, Travis, the road is 600 feet away. And he goes, I don't care. I can't go another step. I'm cramping. And I just kept yelling at him, going like, you can do it.
He was a good couch cheerleader.
Yeah, encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah, your perseverance though killed that deer.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
it
that's-
was. And then we had the quick short debate whether who was going to tag it because some people's mythology is
First blood.
first blood, and what's funny is that morning we had that conversation and we
Yeah.
both said it's not first blood. It's if it's a fatal wound. But you know what? That's our buck, and I'm so
Yeah.
happy to have
that's
experienced
all
that.
teamwork.
And you heard the 7-pointer, the 214. I mean, he jumped it to me. I killed that one. Like those memories that I've got to share with my father.
Yep.
It's just nothing like
You guys got a special bond with that, no doubt about it. So that buck was just outpacing you then, because you shot it the first time 200 yards past
And
him?
I knew it. And
Yeah.
I knew it.
You
And it's
just-
hard to
just
say.
that-
Oh,
right?
just yeah.
It's hard to say.
I
to my
wasn't
dad,
going. I wasn't going fast enough. He kept pushing me to go faster. And
I knew. I could just tell. Like we just got to
Right
go a
there.
little faster. We're gonna catch this guy. Because he
Yeah.
was just in. Because I knew like when that whole thing went down where he stepped in my boot track. I'm like, we're right behind him. We just got to go. And we're gonna catch him. And he's in this wide open clear cut. And I'm like, Dad. And I know the terrain there. I'm like, we just got to push and we're gonna catch him. And we did.
Yeah, he wasn't hurt bad enough to keep wanting to lay down. Like
Never
my
laid down.
theory was, I'm going to catch him laying down, but it was going to be a long time before I caught him laying down.
And then when I hit him with that first one there, he never went uphill again. That's
That's when he started hurting.
That's when
that first sounded like you didn't even know he was hit that first shot. Then hardly.
no, he
Yeah, he
ran
was
like he.
motivated.
just a
I mean, he
great little
ran and
meat
leaped.
type of
Yeah,
deal.
yeah, he ran and
You know.
jumped like.
Yeah.
And that's like I said, this animal doesn't deserve to spend the winter like that. So we got to give our best shot to get him, and the best shot was like taking the collar off him and telling him go get him.
Yep, and yeah, when you got snow like that, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about shooting in when you're hunting in the big woods. If you got snow and you have a shot at a good buck, it's a buck. You might as well
if you
shoot,
can get him
'cause
leaking,
you can get him.
You can get him.
You can get him.
Well,
And
that's
you
what
can usually get him quick.
Well, that's exactly what you told me. You said, Dad, we got all day. Well, when we first got on,
Seemed like we had all day.
you said we got all day. We got a wounded buck right in front of us. We're going to kill this buck. You know, and that's what happens.
Didn't go quite to plan, but we did get him.
You got him. Yeah, that's a heck of a memory to you guys.
Well, it's a great. Yeah, it is.
What
I
that
mean, we
deer
didn't
weigh?
get back to camp till
Only
8
one,
o'clock.
only
at night.
160. So when I first weighed him, so I was in the Northwoods Whitetail pool, and the pool consisted of like having to take a video and all this stuff. So we weighed him in. He was 168 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I hand the camera to him to because I always leave I take everything out except for the heart and lungs, and then I cut the lungs and heart out. We love to eat the heart.
Yep.
At the weigh station, I throw it in the jet sled. So I was doing that.
Yeah, everything's
And so I
out.
hand him the camera, and he filmed. Well, he didn't film it properly, so
Well, I guess
it
you have
ended
to
up-
push play.
It ended up being the winner of the Northwoods Whitetail Pool.
Oh,
by
no
the way.
kidding.
Only at 163. If Jeff Doyle and Connor Shalong and a few others had maybe entered the pool,
Oh, okay.
They might have
didn't.
won.
Yeah, yep. They
but
didn't enter
they
that.
didn't,
Huh?
and they didn't win.
And
I
you beat
did.
John Wright.
And I beat John Wright.
Yep. Oh yeah, he got a buck in New Hampshire this
Yeah,
year.
he got a nice buck.
That same
I think
day,
it's a
right?
9-pointer. That same day.
That same
That
day.
was a kill day.
That was a killing day.
I'm gonna
Well,
tell
how
you
many
that's
times did he shoot?
more? 14, I think.
Oh, he shot 14.
Yeah.
We'll have to get him
He's
back
got
on
some
to get that
video
story.
of himself
absolutely.
shooting. Yeah, you got to get that one.
Yeah, it's good.
No kidding.
Good hunt he
Nice
had
buck,
there.
though.
But yeah, and that's something I've learned throughout the years is you kind of gotta, and I go full. Just I go when I go, and you gotta kind of learn. At least my opinion is you're scouting, you're putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and you're waiting for that kill day. And when that kill day comes, you better be ready.
Yep.
Yep.
And you got to have some luck on your side. The one I killed last year, similar area, I walked out this winter road and snowing bad. One of those days where if you can find a track, you're going to have an opportunity. But if you don't find a track, you're going to walk 52 miles.
Oh yeah. Yep.
You're never going to find a track. And I mean, I'm booking it out this road. I go about a mile and here's this track right to left crossing the road. And I'm like, this is a real one. I get down on the spruce, and I'd had a tough season. It was bare ground. I was a grumpy man because people that I know that shit on stumps are shooting 150 inches while watching porn on their cell phone.
Seeing all that on social media doesn't help.
And it's,
do it?
Yeah,
and
that's
it
why
was,
social
and,
media
and
should
I'll be the
should
first to
turn it
admit
off during deer
I
hunting.
fall victim to that, and I was not happy. And I mean, I'm having a great season. I love to hunt, and I'm hunting more than I ever have because I've hunted the whole season. But at the same time, I'm like, come on, when's something going to connect for me? And I love to track. Like, that's what I'm good at. That's what I love. And I cut that track, and I mean, I was like, you're in for it, dude.
Yeah,
One of us is
you're
going to
gonna
die,
get it.
And I cut him, and I called him on the radio. And I said, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Not even sure if you heard this, but I said, remember how I talk about luck and everybody's got to get a little lucky and luck is involved? Well, guess what? I just got lucky. And this is the type of luck I get. I don't get the big buck that walks out in the logging road and I shoot him.
Yeah.
I find a 6-hour snowed-in buck track, and God says, see what you can do with it there, killer. And I tracked that buck. He went down through, thought he was going to get with some does down in this, like, kind of a bedding area. He ended up crossing the road. Luckily, the tracks, because people were riding roads looking for tracks like they do, you never found them. I mean, it took me 3 or 4 big, started with a 100-yard loop, 300, 400. Finally, I found out where he left that area, but it was so blown in, it just wasn't there. It was gone.
Just couldn't see it.
Just
Yep.
gone.
Yep.
And I tracked him. He got with some other deer, and I'm like, God, like, I mean, this is like 2 hours, 3 hours. And I'm going, what are you doing? You're going to spend all day on this? I'm like, yeah, you are. You talk to yourself. I'm sure you do.
Oh, yeah.
I do.
All the time. All the time.
And I'm going along, and so finally I get him out of those deer, and he's going along, and I mean, he's the dude. Wicked stride, wicked stagger. And I go on him there for a while, for kind of going on him good, kind of got him, he's not with another deer. All of a sudden, he got one of these fresh deer tracks. End up seeing a small buck. That buck had made a scrape, and kind of had to sort him out, kept going on him. Long story short, I'll kind of cut a little bit of the meat and potatoes out, but he ended up going he was way up on the side of the mountain, went through a bunch of slash, went all the way down to this big clear cut, and I see this other buck track coming up, and I'm like, that's him, I know it is. But I don't know about you, but when I see that, I hate switching tracks. I gotta go figure it out because I won't track him the same way. I'll start second guessing myself, and then the first time he does something you don't like, you leave him.
Yep. Yep. No, I know
So
what you mean.
I went down and I sorted them out, spent an hour. I ran. I remember ripping my jacket off, like, because I'm sweating now, because I'm literally running.
Yep.
Because I'm running out of daylight. It's like 2 o'clock. Last day of Maine's Rifle. Last day of my vacation.
That was the last day, yeah.
Because I get about 3 weeks a year, give or take. Very fortunate to have that time.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting on a stump and like airing out, like, come on, wind, and it's blowing and it's cooling me off. Only takes like 2 minutes and you're like back to, Jesus, I'm cold, zip the jacket back up. And I start tracking him up the mountain. As I'm going up the mountain, I'm like, he's going to go up here and lay down, I think, you never know. And he hooked a tree, and when he did, it's the same type of tree he'd been hooking. And he snapped it right off. I'm like, you're on the dude. You're on your right buck track. And it's starting slowly. The snow's kind of been letting up for like the last 2 hours. And I'm realizing, looking at the track, like you're starting to freshen him up a bit. And he goes up these plateaus, and he's starting to meander a little. And all of a sudden, here comes this other buck track, right down his back track. I mean, smoking fresh. And just because somebody wants to torment me, he goes, I tracked him 30 yards, and he made a scrape. Like, just in case you're wondering, it's a buck. Yeah. And it's the last day in Maine. Hey, follow me. Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you. I leaned against the tree, and I went, I've been on this buck all day, killed myself. No, I'm not switching tracks. And, dude, it wasn't 100 yards. He bedded, got up, rebedded, got up, and was feeding on the moose whips, like the hobble bush.
Yep.
Which I don't see him do a lot, but he was feeding on it heavy. I mean, it looked like he'd stood in the same spot for...
Just picking.
And I was hunting, my pump had an issue. And so I was hunting with my bar, and I went like this on the scope, cleaned my scope out, checked the magazine. Yep, we got one hot. We're good. Everything's safety. All right, because this is about to happen. And I start poking on him. And, I mean, I got within about 25 yards of him. He stood up out of his bed.
No kidding.
Oh, wicked close. I mean, it was that day.
Yep.
That day. Great big set of horns.
Wow.
And 3 shots, dumped him.
That was a great buck, too. Yeah, we'll post all the bucks we've been talking about. We'll post pictures
that
of
was
them.
198.8.
Yeah. Last day of the season.
Last day of the season, we check it in, and same thing. I'm cutting the heart and whatever. I throw
you threw the heart in the back of the truck.
Yeah. And it's so cold. I didn't even care.
It was freezing.
In. Like, I could care less. I just want to go home. So cold.
Well, because this is about 7 o'clock at night again. By the time we get them out of the woods.
Yeah. Nobody gets to. I always have to do it the hard way.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the owner comes running out of the store, and he's like, "That's a hammer of a buck." He's like, "What do you weigh?" I said, 198. He goes, "Well, what's in him?" I said, "Nothing. Like, I'm from New Hampshire. We got our deer." And he goes, "Sorry." Yeah. But he goes, "Well,
where's the heart?"
back
No, you said, "Where's the heart?"
Yeah, where's the heart?
Travis goes, "Right there." He said, "Throw it back in there and string him back up." And we said, "No."
And it was like 201 or something with the heart in, but he was ready to go give me my main patch. And I'm like,
just didn't feel right. No.
You know what? That 200-pound thing to me is so special. And the reason it's supposed to be special is because it's supposed to be real life.
It is, yeah.
And unfortunately, with the internet and, you see these guys every year they shoot they've never shot 190 in their life. It's because they embellish.
Yep.
And again, for the listeners, like I talked about the time, remember that. Remember that these guys aren't always shooting 200-pound bucks. If it's a mature buck and you like it, shoot it. And be very proud of it, because the truth is, it's a nice deer.
Yeah.
It's a nice buck, and did you see Ian McKendry's video this year, that 4-pointer?
I did. Yep, that was a great video.
Dude, I love that.
Yep.
He's so humble.
The emotion that you see.
The emotion, the raw.
Where he killed that deer, too. It was a perfect scene.
Great big hunt. Great big buck. Without a bit, who cares?
Special moment.
People,
Special moment.
And again, what I talked about before, we're trying to touch a certain group of individuals, and I hope that touches people, because where we hunt and how we hunt is what it is. It's not the animal we're killing. Would he have been psyched if it was 150-incher? Probably just as much as he was with what he shot,
And on that same hunt, too, before he shot that deer, I knew he'd been tracking one because, he told me on the radio, earlier in the morning when he took the track. So I'm going, who knows where I'm going to find him later today. So it was getting towards the end of the day, and I got to make a decision if I'm going to go back to the truck now, because it's like 2:30, and I'm miles out. So I decided to climb that mountain he was talking about. I got to the top and tried him on the radio, and sure enough, I got him. And that's about the time you had freshened him up, and he was scraping and stuff. You said, "Start coming this way. I'm about to shoot this deer." And I start
I
coming.
knew I was gonna get a shot.
Right there. Yep.
And I start coming down the mountain, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 and I'm going. After all that work, I hope he killed that deer because
It's gonna be a long.
it's going to be a long
camp.
ride back to camp.
Well, we were driving from New Hampshire, so we were staying in Maine.
Okay.
But I like hunting the White Mountains when there's some snow, which is rare. And there wasn't snow, so we were driving like 2 hours every morning. Yeah, he would have had to listen to me cry the whole way back, which I would have done.
And sure enough, so I go down to him, and he always, if he knows I'm within 20 minutes, an hour from him, he won't field dress the deer till I get there because, you want to get good pictures and they look better, before they're field dressed. And he goes, well, hurry up, I want to field dress or we're going to run out of daylight. So I'm going by my GPS and never follow a straight line necessarily because it's not necessarily the best way to get to him.
Yep.
And so finally I got to him and he gets on his, I'm saying, the truck's a mile and a half that way. And you found on your Google Earth that there was a log landing a mile with another road, but it was probably 12 or 14 miles of driving roads to get to him. So
I ended up dragging the buck for like 4 miles.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an exaggeration, but a long ways because once I hit the road, I was cold. So I just dragged him down the road. And dude, I mean, I dragged that buck for hours on the road, never saw another hunter, never saw a bird hunter, nothing. It's a pretty remote area we hunt.
Yeah, so I went back to the truck and he's kept calling me on the radio and finally on the cell phone he goes, "Where are you?" I said, I had 14 miles of logging roads to drive to find you. I'm coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I want to talk. I'm glad you said that. Like you knew you were gonna kill that deer. Don't you have days where you know when you're on a track? I thought that was just me, but when something's gonna happen. And then some days when you don't have that feeling and it doesn't happen, but there's some days it's gonna happen. But.
Yeah, like I always say, like on a kill day, like for example, if it's quiet and it's calm. There's guys that can do it. Mm-hmm. And again, I've said it before, I'm not the greatest hunter in the world. Like, I'm not that good. I'm not that patient. I'm not that slow. But if you give me a kill day, I feel like I can put something together. And, yeah, you just know when you get close. As a matter of fact, he's got a story, and this was bear ground, where you had hunted there the day before, and he found a bunch of buck sign. And he literally said, I'm about to kill a buck. And started looking for his drag stick
before I shot the deer.
Really?
A little cocky, but he started looking, and then
but you knew. There's that hunter. There's something about it. I don't know what it is. I've never put my finger on it, but there's that hunter instinct when you know something's about to happen. Yeah. And what's the story on that deer?
Well, it was basically like Travis said. I mean, it's an area I'd hunted a lot before, and I just been there, and we hadn't hunted there for 4 or 5 days, and I kept saying to the guys, nobody seemed to want to go back there with me, and I said, well, I'm going back there because all I've seen is big buck sign, and I want to go back. And I get back there, and everything is lining up. The wind's perfect. I'm still hunting. It was kind of wet leaves. It was bare ground. I said, I'm going to be able to sneak in here and get where I want to get. And, just all of a sudden that feeling like, I'm going to shoot a deer, and I need to find a drag stick. And I remember looking down and like, oh, there's the perfect one, the bare one, the no bark on it. It's going to be rugged. And I don't think it was 2 minutes after that thought went through my head, I hear clicking of the antlers hitting the whips because it was in this real slash field.
Yep.
It was on a fast trot. I don't know if he was chasing does.
Oh, he was moving right towards you?
He was moving right towards me.
Well,
brush. Walking through the, trotting through the brush. Let him come to an open, let him have it, turn around. Well, there's my stick.
that was a good one.
I took the stick. And another part of that story is another hunting buddy of ours had shot one. I'd heard a gunshot way down in the valley where I knew he was going to head. And I could hear him talking to somebody else. He couldn't hear me. And they were saying, did you get him? And he said, yes, I got him. I'm all set. I can do it by myself. I don't need any help. Everybody, just keep hunting. I'm thinking, thank God, because we are very, if one of our friends shoots and they got a deer down, we go. We don't keep hunting. We go make sure everybody's going to get the deer out and all that stuff. And so I went, thank God he said he didn't need any help because I want to finish this hunt. And then it wasn't 10 minutes later I shot that deer. And
that was the year we had 7 guys in camp. We killed 7 bucks.
Really?
Yeah. I killed, I think it was that big 8. the big white 8 up there.
That's a special year then.
Yeah, it was a good year. I killed one in New Hampshire and Maine that year, and ended up almost killing one in Vermont.
What year was that?
That was 2017.
I think it was. Yeah.
It was a year after I killed Freak Nasty. No, so it would have been 2015.
And I think mine was like
I can't remember.
mine was like a 7-pointer, like 170 or something.
You guys are killing a lot of 7-pointers.
I've killed a pot.
Well,
I think I've killed like 7.
I think a
7.
genetic thing there and that
They just
general
don't grow
area.
the racks.
Going on
They
there.
get-
Yeah. That's
No brow tines.
Yeah.
You know, we've shot 6-pointers that should have been 8-pointers. No brow tines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's usually what it is.
In camp that year, where you guys killed 7. Was there a lot of feed in the woods that year?
Yeah, it was a really
Yeah.
good year. A lot of deer around.
Yeah.
A lot of deer movement. You know, buck to doe ratio seemed to be decent that
Yep.
year. Bucks were hanging out.
Yep. There's a lot of factors that go into it.
There
then
is.
we had
there
some
is.
snow at the end of the season. Too.
And you had the right
Yeah.
conditions.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
Yeah. This year, without a lot of the food, it was very sporadic that I noticed. Did you guys notice the same? Like, I didn't see a lot of deer up high this year. Was it the same for you guys?
100%. You know, there was some real things you had to key in on, and it took me half the season to figure it out.
Yep.
And once you figured it out, they were there, and you know, I killed some deer.
Yeah.
But yeah, weird year. Very weird year.
It was off. It was definitely
I think the
off.
deer were there. They were just doing different things, and people weren't. It's
I
tough.
I hunted more
Especially
clear
in the
cut
winter.
slash stuff than I ever hunted this year. Places I never wanted to walk through again.
Right.
But I said, it's where they got to be because
Where
they're
the
not
food is.
they're not where I want to be. So I got to go where they are.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. No, I think this coming year, I think it's gonna be a good year. Like the amount of bucks that I tracked, like towards the later part of the season, like you did once we figured it out and
Yeah.
got into it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of deer that survived this year because of that,
Yeah.
and not being in their normal areas where they're gonna get killed. I think this coming year, if it's a good feed year and everything
Right.
comes
And I
together,
think this winter's been good. I mean, obviously, as we sit here, it's like minus 15 and blowing
Yeah.
a gale. But
first time it's been below that. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
you know, I think this year we're going to have. We had a pretty mild winter. They got a pretty good setup, and then it's going to warm right back up again. So I'm hoping that we have a good deer herd for next year. For
Hopefully,
sure.
hopefully a good feed year too, because there wasn't any beech nuts in the woods or acorns or
None, yeah.
nothing this
Acorns,
year.
no nothing.
It was
Acorns or anything.
It was tough.
I
It
mean,
wasn't even
especially the
mushrooms.
people around here. You know, I call this central or southern part of the state. You know, where people hunt the oak ridges and stuff. I mean, they didn't. You know, people just didn't know where am I going to hunt?
Yeah.
You know.
yeah, had a lot of guys spun out and stuff.
They were hunting the fields and stuff. You
Yeah.
know, anything green and stuff. But
All right, diving back in here. So we're just talking about deer camp where you guys killed 7 bucks and kind of going. Was it the next year after that you killed?
Yeah,
the
so
big
we were
8 on the wall?
confused and chatting. I'm pretty sure I killed a weird 5-pointer that year. Weighed like 188 pounds, a big-bodied buck. I'd actually seen that buck, I'm pretty confident, scouting, which kind of put us in that area for moose that year. But it was the following year, I was pointing out on the wall here, I've got a big wide 8-pointer that I shot. It was the following year that I shot him. So not that year. But since we're talking about it, I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning, driving these roads, looking up tracks. And I don't really look for tracks till I get to the area I want to look, because I don't want to.
You want to be distracted.
I don't want to take off like a beagle on the wrong one and end up, downtown or
I
something.
feel you on that.
yeah.
And I get to the area where I start want to look, and nothing. I drive several miles and finally find this track that comes. It's going right to left up the mountain. You know, I mean, it's the dude. I mean, as Isaac would like to say, 4-finger humdinger.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. So I know that there's another road that sneaks up around the left side. So I drive up that road to see if he crossed. And he didn't. I actually took a walk. There's like a culvert that's out, and there's another road that goes right out there. And I booked it out there, come back, and it's starting to get light. I'm like, I got to get back down there for some green plate ends up on my track. And I get down there. He had come back out and was walking right up the road. And I mean, I'm telling you, I mean, you'll say it to this day, one of the biggest buck tracks I've ever seen.
Really, just a hammer. Just
Hammer.
An absolute hammer.
240 plus.
Yep.
Monster.
Yep.
And he goes down, pitches down over the bank. I'm like, there's a road that goes right down there. So I drive down that road, go to put the truck in park. I look in the cut, and there he is.
Oh, right there.
Giant. And
Oh,
he's motivating through the cut. I get out, try and slap a clip in the gun. I don't shoot him from the road. I'd shoot him from the road.
That one,
Like it was.
that one gets you fired.
I've been tracking him all morning, as
Yeah.
far as I was concerned,
Oh,
from
yeah.
the FJ Cruiser.
Oh, when you say road, you're talking.
We're talking
lots.
class,
Yeah,
class,
yeah,
six,
class
class,
six, yeah.
class
Yeah,
five,
absolutely.
class. I don't know what you get when you
Yeah.
have to have a lifted FJ to get up.
Yeah, and chains.
So, I hammer all my stuff on, get out of the truck, and I start tracking him. He goes up over this ridge. There's a big valley, goes up on this other ridge, gets with a doe. And this is areas, I mean, I know this woods real well, and they always travel the same routes. And he gets up over the top of this, and he's coming down. There's this cut that's a fresh cut, and he's kind of heading down toward it. And I'm standing there, transition between the hardwood and the softwood, and then there's some cut, and I'm like, he's going to be in his finger, I would imagine. He's with the doe, and I'm just standing there. And I remember going like, God, I did everything right. I really did, but sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, and I'm studying, and I'm looking, and I'm taking one step, and all of a sudden, the doe blew, he grunted, and they both bounded, and I just didn't have a shot. So I ran down in there. I'm in the thick rhubarb spruce, snow on the trees, beautiful conditions, windy, and I'm creeping, and I'm tipping my bleat can. And he just grunted. He's looking for the doe, right? So I'm bleating. Oh, my God, here he is. It's going to happen. And all of a sudden, I see deer legs, and I'm looking through the Christmas tree shit, and I just see what I thought was brow tines, right? That's all I need. Boom, boom, comes running out, 4-pointer. I'm like befuddled. I mean, we're hunting in the North Country. There's not, you don't accidentally see deer. You can walk 8 miles and not see a deer track.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I shot the wrong buck. John Wright shot the wrong buck this year, and it was a 146-inch 8-pointer. I shot the wrong buck. It was a 4-corn. How's that work out? So, being the good friend that I am, I called John Wright on the radio. I'm like, dude, you got to go over here and get on this track. Long story short, he ended up tracking that buck. It fought with another buck. The other buck won the fight, and he said it's the most menacing buck fight he's ever seen in his life, like the sign, mowing down 3-inch saplings.
Just blown out.
Just
blown.
in the middle of broad daylight.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm going, I stopped talking. So, hellbent fire, I was ready to kill a big buck. So I checked that buck in. I told the lady at the check-in station, I said, I'm going to go to Maine. So I'm in my Maine license. I'm going to shoot a hammer. That night, I almost killed an 8-pointer. I tracked one down and almost killed it.
So you bought your license and immediately shipped it across
Dumped
the
the
border.
deer, went and hung it up, went to Maine.
What time did you kill the deer at that morning?
11.
Okay, so you had plenty of light. So you dumped the deer,
Drive,
bought your license, went.
Because we're in the New Hampshire Maine border.
Yeah,
Drive to Maine.
yeah.
Tracked this other buck down. I could have probably shot it, but I didn't shoot because it wasn't a big one.
Yep.
The next morning,
You'd already done that today.
I've already done that. I made that mistake.
Yeah.
I see this track. So I'm driving up this road, and I see this track coming down through. I'm like, what the hell is a moose track doing in the middle of all these deer tracks?
Oh, no.
And I'm like, that's weird. But whatever. So I drive up. I drive back down. I'm like, that moose track's dragging its friggin' toes. That's not a moose track. Literally, that's how big the track was. I get out and look at it. I'm like, oh, my God. And it's fresh. And I'm like, but I'm way on the side of a mountain. And the way these road systems work is there's these like river valleys, roads, mountains, river valley, road, mountain. And I'm like, I know there's a rocked off road over there. I'm going to drive down the valley. I'm going to park at the bottom because I'm so notorious for taking 8, 9, 10-mile walks at the end of the day to get back to my rig. And I'm like, I'm going to save myself a lot of nighttime walking because I'm going to park at the bottom. And at least I'm walking downhill instead of uphill.
Yep.
So I GPS the track, go down, cut that track, and I book it up this side road. And it's only like a half a mile between where I was and where the track was. Left to right.
Yep.
Vertically, up the mountain, it was like a mile and a half. So I get to where I'm like getting close to where the track was, and all of a sudden, here he comes. Out on the trail. Huge. I mean, there's no
doubter.
There's no doubt. I mean, he stepped in a 180-pound buck track and made it look like, and he only ended up weighing 191 or whatever it was.
Just had
we
clown
were
feet
having
on
this
him.
debate whether he's
Yeah.
what he weighed, but and so he'd go down, and I'm like, I still feel like I'm going to see him again. I go, oh, there he is again. Keep going, and it's fresh, but it's not like smoking fresh. And I track him. He goes down. He goes way up, and the wind is literally piping up my ass. And I'm like, typical.
Whatever happens, happens. Yeah.
But he's with a doe,
Yeah.
and he's going. I'm going to keep tracking him. All of a sudden, I look over on the inside. There's like this little brook, and on the bank, there's this track trotting, and you can just tell. I'm like, oh, there he is. He's going down there. And I go over there, and yep, sure enough, he's with that doe, and he's dogging her. But now it's like, just happened, fresh. And this is where I go from tracking to hunting. Because he's just they're chasing, and I only tracked them 3 miles maybe. Like, I'm in like this valley, and it's like a lot of sorting out, a lot of looping, and a lot of this and that. But as the crow flies, I probably went 3 miles.
Yeah.
And now I'm doubling back. And at one point, I was up on the road. I heard like ice breaking. I'm pretty confident it's what I was hearing. And I'm going along, and all of a sudden, I look up and I see movement, and here comes this doe. And right behind it is him. And he's going through the pecker poles and just having to twist his head around. And I'm like, oh, my God. And I'm, shoot, no, don't shoot. Shoot, no, shoot. Now all of a sudden, he stops behind a blowdown. And I'm like, you dipshit, you didn't shoot. You're going to turn around and walk out of your life forever. And I'm standing there, and the doe's 30 yards. He's 45. And I'm like, I leaned against the tree so long my arms went numb. I had to like take my gun and like lean it up against the tree to shake my hands up. So I'm like, if you ever do get a shot at this deer, because they're just standing there looking at me. The buck's behind the tree. She's right there. Finally, she starts doing the, tail flop. I'm like, oh, go. Tail flop. Come on. Tail flop. Finally, she starts walking left to right. And he starts following. I'm like, oh, here we go. But there was like a berm in between. I thought he'd just come out and follow her, but he stayed over here, on the other side of the berm. And I literally snuck up to a tree, stood on my tippy toes, put it on his neck, boom! And it sounded like a pop gun, pop. Because like the snow went flying. So I go running over there, I fall, and it was like the most traumatic fall of my life because as I'm falling, all I see is this giant 23-inch spread 8-pointer standing there looking at me.
Slow motion.
And I'm like, oh! Do a barrel roll, pull up, boom, boom, pump. Oh, God, that still hurts. So I go over there and I see some blood. I'm like, all right, I hit him with one of the shots. I don't know which one, but he's leaking. But there's running tracks of the same age everywhere, and he has like 3 specks of blood. So I pick what I think's his track, and I just go on it. And I'm running. All I can hear in my pocket is rant, my bleed can.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I probably went on him a half mile. I go down this thing, and I see a speck of blood. And I'm like, dang.
So you know you're on the right one.
I know I'm on him.
Yep.
And I see another speck of blood. And I go maybe another quarter mile. And I'm, like, starting to get nervous here. I'm like, man, you just blew it. And I go down, and I look across this brook, and I see him. He's heading up the brook, and he looks back at me.
Going up like a bank?
Going up a bank.
Okay.
Yep, across the brook, going up a bank, and looks back at me. And I put on his neck again, which I probably shouldn't have done because that first one didn't work out. And I dumped him. Mm-hmm. And it was him, 8-pointer, the very next day. So I checked him in, and at the check-in station I checked him in at, I had a really long drive back to camp, and the roads are dusty.
Yep.
And he goes, what if I had an FJ with a big rack on the top? He said, what if I threw it up on the rack? I can hoist it up
because he has a hoist.
Get it down. I'm like,
yeah.
Dude, looked pretty badass.
I bet. It's funny. I was looking back at your pictures. Was that deer?
That's him.
Okay,
the big wide one.
Because it's funny you said that because I've been looking for an FJ to turn into like a hunting rig. Because are they the best thing for? I mean, I love my Tacoma. And I mean, you had a Tacoma. You had a Tacoma.
It's the best thing.
I've been funny.
I love my Tacoma.
Yeah.
It's nothing like that FJ.
It's nothing like it.
There used to be a bump eater, we used to call it, too.
It just eats.
Just built for it.
Eats them up.
Yeah. Well, you didn't want to follow him on a road.
Can you keep up with him?
Oh, you can't keep up with him. Because I'm riding around my old F-150 getting thrown all around the road. Yeah. And he's just like,
I'm going, and even my
and he's going like, where'd you go?
And I got a $8,000 lift kit in that stupid. I mean, I went all out, and it just doesn't do it.
I remember when we met up with John Wright there. He was talking because I think his girlfriend has a Forerunner. And he was talking about how the Forerunner was better than the Tacoma for deer hunting or something.
Yeah. And I mean, I might end up getting a Forerunner.
So
I pull into camp with that buck on the roof, and everybody's just like jaw dropped.
That's awesome. On the roof.
And it was the day after, so I pulled into the place I checked in that deer, and up to the lady, and she was so encouraging. She was like, "Oh my God, I hope you kill a big one." And I said, "Hey, I want to show you something." She goes, "What?" And I said, "Remember you encouraged me and said I was going to shoot a big one? Oh, come here, come look."
No shit.
I mean, she was so excited. Gave me a big hug. awesome.
That's
Awesome.
awesome. Yeah, you're never gonna forget that.
Yeah.
Wow, and that's a heck of a buck too. You gotta send me a picture of that. We'll put it up on the page after.
Yeah, I'll send you the one on top of the FJ.
Yeah,
It's a good picture.
What did he weigh?
191.
And he's had big clown feet. Like you couldn't mistake him with
Unbelievable.
like just.
And that buck, like you were talking earlier when we were off rolling or whatever, that buck was like, I don't know how old. No teeth in its head.
No teeth, not
10 and a half, 11 and a half, old.
Wasn't that the one you ran into and some other guys helped you
Oh,
drag
yeah.
him out of the hole you were in?
Some really nice Maynards. If you guys are listening, thank
Yeah.
you. I mean,
That's the spirit of other hunters, though.
Oh,
they gave up
wicked
their
good
hunt
guys.
to help him.
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Wicked good guys. Yeah. And I mean, it was like 4 of us. We barely got it out.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I wasn't a big old.
Because I know where you were, and that was
like I am now.
That's a hole to get a deer out of.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Real shithole.
No kidding. Huh. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Maine buck, giant Maine buck too. Yeah.
Good
you
old
guys-
Maine.
It was the Freak Nasty. Was that a New Hampshire or is that a Maine buck?
That was a New Hampshire buck.
Freak Nasty, right? 2014.
Yeah,
we're
I don't name
Yeah.
my deer, but my buddy named this one.
Yeah.
You got the burnt. Is that burnt wood burnt on the sign right there behind him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's hear that story because that's a crazy buck too.
Yeah, that's a crazy one. So I torn my ACL
Oof.
in 2016. No, 2014. Yeah. And I got it fixed in 2016. Playing flag football. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And so, like, I was really concerned if I'd be able to hunt or not. And I mean, I was fine. I hunted. A good buddy of mine who's an absolute killer himself showed us the spot. He's like, dude, there's a lot of bucks in here. You know, he ended up shooting, I think, a 9-pointer.
You shot a 9-pointer.
Yeah,
It's the first
early in the
day he
week.
hunted with us. Yeah.
And he's like, dude, keep hunting in there. You know, go kill one of those big bucks. And I found this guy. Same thing, clown foot, just giant track.
No doubter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the first day I found him, I tracked him all day, and he was making this big swing and going. He was not a ridge runner; he was a swamp buck, and he would go down low into the swamp and just disappear. I mean, I lose his track because you know how it like melts out down in
Oh yeah.
there.
Oh yeah. It's hard to follow. Into
Smart guy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'd make this big swing on him, and he was hooking 30-inch signposts,
No shit.
going to every signpost,
Hammering
taking me on walks. So the first day I tracked him, I didn't leave the track until about 4:30. In the rhubarb, jumped him 2 or 3 times, saw him once, knew he was a hammer, and I don't know what time I got home that night. It was like 8 o'clock. Luckily, the guy gave me a ride on the road. But I had like at 4:30, I had a 4-mile walk just to get back to the road, and I had a 4-mile walk back to my truck. I mean, just crazy mileage days. And I did this a lot of days. So I ended up tracking the buck, and I'm going to cut a lot of the fat out just to get to the point. But I'd say I tracked him for about 2 weeks. And when I say tracked him for 2 weeks, I didn't track him every day.
Yeah.
But
Some
I'd
days you
track
couldn't
him,
find him.
and then
Yeah.
I'd get cut off on the track, or I couldn't find the track.
In his area.
In his home base.
Yep.
And some days I'd get him from the road. Some days I'd get an idea of what he was doing. One day I was tracking him, and this is a day I probably should have killed him. It's beautiful. You know, snow was melting. And I got screwed up, and I got on another buck track, and it wasn't until, because he's going uphill, and, you know, sometimes when they're going uphill, it's harder to tell. Size of their hoof and what they're doing, and finally got flat-footed, and I'm like, wait a minute, he's got a clown foot. This isn't a clown foot. Doesn't have the stagger. And then it was so late in the day, I was like, well, let's see what this one does, you know, and I was getting a little frustrated with him. And my knee was blowing up, you know, walking around on a torn ACL. And my wife actually came up for Thanksgiving the night before, and I was pretty beat up, pretty down. And I'm like, I don't even know if I want to keep doing it, you know.
Yeah.
He's beating me, and he wins, and she's like, that's not your attitude. You're going to get up in the – we got snow. We're supposed to get 6 inches of snow. You're going to get up in the morning, you're going to go kill that buck. And sometimes it's all you need as a tracker, as a hunter, is a little encouragement, a little kick in the ass, if you will. And I got to give credit to my buddy Greg, because we were driving. He was passenger on my FJ, and I'm driving out this road, and we're looking for him. And he'd come to the edge of the road, and he'd fed a little with a doe, and then went back in the woods. And he happened to look up on the bank, and he goes, there he is. And I'm thinking he's standing there, right?
Yeah, right.
And he goes, that's your freak nasty. You know, what do you mean? He's like, it's a huge buck track. So I back up, we get out of the truck, and I'm like, Greg, you're right, that's him. He's like, I know, I could see it from the road. You know, because those big buck tracks, you know when you see them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're going along, you're looking at track. Ooh, whoa, 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 whoa.
Makes you say, holy
there
shit.
he is.
Yep.
And so I get out of the truck, give him high five, say, take the truck, go wherever you want. This is what I'm doing for the day. And now he had slept in that morning. He beat himself up and said it was snowing and the wife was there and it was Thanksgiving Day. It was literally Thanksgiving Day. And he says, I'll come out later. And so I pick up the track and he goes through and he's with a doe and he's meandering feed. And I'm like, Jesus, I think this buck's in a bed right here. And I mean, it was wicked fresh, sticky, wet snow. And I hear the thud. I mean, I'm within seeing distance of the road. Mm-hmm. And I come around the corner, sure enough, right behind some spruces. They had been bedded, and I bumped them. Off they go. Now, I don't know how everybody else does it, but, like, when I track, I tend to, when I cut a buck track, I just go. And I go on them fast, and I don't care if I jump him. Actually, I want to jump him.
So you know he's right there.
And if I kill him in the meantime,
you know
or if he lays down something that's so obvious that it's time to switch gears, then I will. Mm-hmm. And I find a lot of guys that say they track, and I'm not insulting any of them. I just think that everybody has a different approach. Mm-hmm. They're wasting a lot of time because they're hunting where the deer isn't.
Getting caught up in the creep when the deer's not there.
Right.
About. Yep.
Exactly.
Right. And I'm guilty of it. Like I think for years,
yeah.
the biggest problem I had, and I probably have many problems. I'll probably identify a few more in 3 years. But the biggest problem I had back then is I was always, anytime I'd see that, oh, he fed a little, I'm going to slow down. Or, oh, he's meandering. Well, no, he's not. He's looking for a doe. Mm-hmm. And it's just that the time on the track that'll teach you. And I'll be the first to admit, I can't always read the deer. Every deer is different. Mm-hmm. So I tend to just go.
Yep.
And when I jump them, here we go. It's game on.
Yep.
And it may take you 8 miles of going to have that moment. And if you go too slow, you only do 2 miles, you never catch them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Not the case on this particular hunt because I caught him within 200 yards of the road, and now it's game on. So I sat there, gave him a minute, went, tracked him for 2-3 miles, and they were running the whole time. Straight up running. Went to a trot. All of a sudden, I'm like, all right, they slowed down. I slowed down. I look around a little bit. Doe is bedded within 10 yards of them slowing down. I look up and she's bedded on her blowdown and she's like half getting up and goes, uh-oh. We make eye contact and she literally froze. And I froze and I'm looking for him. You know, where is he? Where is he? And all of a sudden she blows and he takes off behind a blowdown and all I see is that big, thick, tight rack.
Yeah.
No shot.
No mistake in that rack. No.
And I think I have some footage and I got to go through some of my old cell phone. I know I have the footage. I turned the cell phone, because I've been filming myself for years. I've got so much old content.
Yeah.
Because I just enjoy it. I like looking back on it. Mm-hmm. And so I turn the camera around on myself and I go, I just need a break. I've been tracking this buck for 2 weeks. I've seen him countless times. I've jumped him, but he never got with a doe. He was always doing this big loop. It was a night walk, and then he was going down on that hellacious swamp. And I got close to him a couple times down in there, but I mean, you can't even walk.
He's doing that like recluse, big buck
He
stuff.
knows his deal, and he knows where he's safe, and that's where he's living. And he's right. He's not even in a spot I'd normally hunt.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But he's living, that's where he's living. So I gave him another 50, and this time I didn't give him as long, because I'm like, they know what's happening now. They know I'm after him.
Yeah.
And I go, and I go, and I go, and he gets down. I'm like, I'm getting down close to this road, I think. And all of a sudden, shh. And it's him on the radio. I'm like, hey, is that for me? Yeah. What are you doing? I said, tracking my buck. Telling him quick synopsis, jumped him, I'm close. He's running again. All right, well, I don't want to screw you up. Love you, kill him. Love you too, Dad. Well, we'll see. One step. Look up. Stands up out of his bed. Boom.
No
dead
shit.
body.
Are you kidding me?
Dead serious.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like when he heard me shoot, he's like, oh shit. I just screwed him.
I thought I'd screwed him up by calling him on a radio.
So you were going and you heard the radio, so you stopped right there?
Yep.
Wow.
And he's running again. And this is something for listeners to listen to. Like it's not always textbook.
I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Yep.
They don't always, but I'll tell you right now, when it is textbook, pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
When you're tracking a buck and he makes a 90-degree, he's going to be right there. Mm-hmm. Unless he picks up a doe. There are some circumstances, but 90% of the time, he's going to be right. When there's a transition, he's probably right there if you're close to him. But when he's running, if you see any indication whatsoever that they slow down, especially when they're with a doe, start looking.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean slow down, means pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Stop looking at the track.
Stop looking at the track.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll stop, right? Like you said, they'll bound.
I mean,
bound,
this
and
buck
stop.
twice with a doe, down, walk a little bed.
It's the exact same thing happened to my buck this year. I jumped him out of the bed, went 150 yards, bound, and then she was here, he was here. They just happened to stop.
I never did see where the doe was. She was right there somewhere, but I was.
So you just stopped waiting for her to make the next move, type of deal, right?
Yeah. I literally put the radio down. I took 2 steps and I caught movement, and he stood up out of his bed. And I had some instances where I'd shot smaller deer than I wanted to, and I literally could have blown it on this one. So I went, "Is that him?" Cranked the scope up, went, boom, and basically he did a cartwheel, and I was just like, and then to have him right there, dude,
Yeah.
like I had been on this track. So the way that I hunt is people hunt, with me, but I don't hunt with other people. Like, I go look for a track, and then that's what I do. Mm-hmm. And they'll hunt around me and near me, but like usually 90% of the deer I kill, I'm like in the rhubarb by myself. Luckily, I had the Mainers on that big wide 8, but he was just coincidentally.
Yeah, and that was Thanksgiving Day.
Half a mile from me.
So, the great part about it, the girls had both come up to camp, and so they're excited when we get a deer. And then we dragged it out to a road that we were behind a gate, and we had all the snow, and that's when we met
Brownie.
Yeah. Thank God for Brownie. Yeah. They have a camp behind the gate, and one of his buddies came by with a truck, and he dragged the deer out for us down the road.
Hooked the drag rope to the
tailgate. It was a foot of snow on the ground by us.
Just skidded him right out for us.
Just skidded him right out to the gate for us.
He only weighed 177, but again, old buck, wicked old buck.
I mean, everything about that. You hunting him for that long and having him there, that's just meant
I've never got him scored, but I'm guessing he's in the 130s, big 120s.
I bet he's at least 130. I bet. Yeah. A little drop time too on that. You had to send me a picture of that one as well, but that's awesome. That's meant to be.
Like those types of racks. Everybody's got their
unique
racks that they like. Like I love it when they come back together. I also love it when they just
wide.
Wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the character of that one.
Yeah.
He's real compact, but he's got everything you would want in a northern buck. The mass, he's got the tine length, everything, just real compact and everything like that.
And this is a case where, like, the more you track a buck, the more you learn.
I was going to come back to that, yeah.
And I kept every day I learned something, and I was starting to. I'm like, dude, your days are getting numbered because, and I got to tell you, he was. And when you finally do connect, it's so rewarding.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I didn't know what his rack looked like. I didn't have cell phone cameras or any pictures of any of that stuff. I just knew he had a big track, big stagger, pretty cool antler marks in the snow, and he was hooking some really big trees.
Yeah. You knew he was the king of the woods. That
he was the dude.
He was the man. Yeah, the dude, as you guys say. Yeah,
he was the dude.
Yeah. So you had to give Bob the assist on that one, stopping you right there with the radio.
Yeah, that was my
call.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I did, and I thought, oh no, he's going to shoot me when he sees me because I thought he was probably shooting at a running deer because I just called him on the radio,
Yeah. So you guys are tucking your radios back. You're tucking your radio back in, and you hear gunshots going.
Oh
on.
yeah.
You're like, oh shit.
And I'm going, oh no.
It goes both ways. We were bear ground hunting in Maine one time, and
that was a bad one. Yeah.
And this track, this was probably one of the bigger weight buck tracks I've ever seen. It was like a 250-pound buck, and I knew the area, and I called him on the radio. I'm like, Dad, I'm bear ground tracking a giant, but the wind's up my ass. There's nothing I can do. There's ledges on the backside. I know where he's going to go bed. Well, I'm into some sign, and I'm going to work my way over there. I'm like, no. You need to come here now.
Yeah.
Because I'm wearing a wool coat, wool shirt with, like, nothing underneath it. It's not even that cold, but, I mean, I wasn't wearing any clothes. That's how I dress very, very light. I carry the minimal stuff I need to carry. Usually some macadamia nuts and a lighter and a knife. And a drag rope.
And extra bullets.
Or a belt for a drag rope. And lots of bullets. I need to save the weight for the bullets.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I get to, so finally, I mean, what was it? Hour. Yeah. It felt like 5 days, but an hour went by and he's like, all right, I'm where you want me to be. You happy? Because we were kind of arguing on the radio. And I'm like, I'm trying to help you out here. So I climb this steep bank. I get to the top and I'm like, he's got to be right here. It's no, the sun's hitting it. It's just perfect. And I start poking and I hear thud, and I just see brown. Grab the radio. Get boom. Well, he heard that, and maybe I said get ready, or maybe there's more dialogue than that. But long story short, me talking to him on the radio, he grabbed his radio and was trying to talk, looked up, and this giant's running right at him. Moral to the story is, if your son says, get over here, get over here.
there.
You better get your ass over there.
Yeah, we didn't get that one.
He got him leaking. Giant.
Giant one.
It was giant, yeah.
Bare ground, though.
Bare
That's
ground,
tough.
yeah.
That's a dead deer on snow all day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. That's tough. But, you got to shoot when you get opportunities because they don't come a lot in the big woods, as you guys know.
No, for sure.
But, geez. Wow. That's all. You guys got to – I love the hunt, the way you guys hunt together. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Huh. Well, you want to switch gears a little bit here and talk about some – because, Mass late season this year? You want to talk about that a little bit? Yeah.
I mean, I was lucky this year. I got to hunt New Hampshire, Maine, shot bucks in both New Hampshire and Maine. Had a really good opportunity on a Vermont buck. Blew that one. Shot 3 times. Nothing to show for it. And then us Northwoods whitetails, and you came down at them. I just missed you.
Yep.
Sorry we didn't connect on that one, but we had a camp in Mass, and I've never hunted down there. I was excited to go. I've been talking about it for years. And got permission. I call it clearance from the tower, my wife. I'm very lucky. I joke, but, I always thank her in every video. I mean, my wife is as passionate about, she doesn't care. She's not a hunter, but she, understands my passion and just loves that I love it as much as I do. She's just like, babe, if you want to go, go. I'm very lucky.
That's important.
And she loves going to hunting camp.
She loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very lucky. Yeah. And hopefully my daughter ends up hunting. But anyway, so I go to Mass. I hunt the first day, and it was pretty frustrating, to be honest with you, because I didn't have any idea where to go. Thank God for OnX Hunt, because OnX gave me the tools to find the state land to be able to hunt anywhere.
And it's chopped up down there. That's the first thing I know compared to up here. It's the OnX is so key down there. It's so
huge.
Chopped up.
Because those towns down there, you have to have written landowner permission.
And the paint on the trees and everything else. It's very different.
I was and I'm super, like I said, my dad stops at a yellow light. I am square as the day is short. I am going to pay, any rule, especially when it comes to the privilege of hunting.
Very conscious of when it comes to that. Yeah.
100%. So, I mean, the first day I was completely legal. I get out of the truck and I see the sign, and come to find out I could have hunted where I wanted to hunt, but so I was getting pretty frustrated. And I finally found some ground I could hunt and get out in there and start breaking it down and caught this giant buck track. I'm like, I can't believe, because you have this preordained notion that there's a little foot deer down in Mass.
Now, right?
We're December. We're the week before Christmas. I think it was December 19th, something like that. And I kind of did a pretty big loop. It kind of broke down the woods because it wasn't a huge piece. And I'm like, I think there's some stuff going on there. I want to go back. And I had some offers because Dustin had come up from Northwoods Whitetails.
Yep.
And Joey was up there and a few of the other guys. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go back down there because I liked it. And I get in the woods that morning and I cut a doe track that went up the ridge. I'm like, I'm going to follow her, see what she's doing. I mean, there's a lot of sign. And I work my way up these plateaus. And the whole time I'm going those southeast plateaus is where you should be. But I have that disease, like I told you, that I got to go check out the rest of this chunk. So I go way up over the mountain, do a bunch of this, do a bunch of that, really don't get anything going. I'm like, all right, you got to get back over that southeast side. And I talk about it on the footage that I shot. As soon as I crested it, you could feel the warmth, you could feel the sun. I mean, animals, they're not stupid. They're gonna be where it's the most comfortable. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I crested it, and the wind was more, it's just common sense. But I scratched my itch, and I get over that little bank, and immediately I see a track. I look up, and I jump a deer. And I'm over there investigating the track, and I look over, and all of a sudden there's the dude track. And I'm like, here we go. Yeah. And I mean, it's freaking smoking fresh. And everything I'd heard is they don't go anywhere. Rut's over.
Season. Yep.
Late season. And the wind was kind of hitting me in a way that he was going down the plateau, then he'd go out the plateau, then he'd go down the plateau. Now, so I was kind of circling, not staying directly on his track, because if I stayed on his track, it was kind of making the wind favor him. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of doing little swings. And so when I was doing this one swing, he kind of cut the other way, which kind of caught me off guard because he wasn't where I expected him to be. And I see this blob that looked like a deer, and I literally scoped it. I was like, nope, not a deer. Keep looking around. Could have very well blown it, and I keep looking. And I was like, you know what? I better take another look at that blob that I just. And I take a right step to the right, and I'm like, oh, wait. That's a deer laying there. Then I start looking at the tracks. I'm like, wait a minute. I think that's him. And I crank my scope up to 9. It's a great big deer, great big head, orange patch on it. I'm like, that's a buck. And I'm talking in the video. I'm like, this is a buck. I know it's a buck. He's standing there. And finally, I'm like, if it's a buck or it's not a buck, he doesn't have antlers. So either he's shed or it's a doe. So I start filming with my cell phone and my GoPro, and I just start marching at the thing. And he doesn't move. I got within about 15 yards of him before he stood up.
And that's the picture you have?
That's the picture.
Yeah.
And he's like, nah, I don't have my antlers. You're not going to shoot me.
That picture you have that thing's built like a brick shit.
Yeah, that's solid.
It's
square.
a hammer.
Squared out.
That's a mature. You see the pinnacle?
I want to know what that thing had on it.
That's probably that's my 150 incher. That's
my.
I remember seeing that picture and be like, that is a mature buck all day, big
what
square head.
What an experience though. Like I look back on it. I mean, it was a gut punch because it's like you put in all that effort and time and you figure it out and you do the thing and then there he is. And
but you did everything right. At the end of the day, you did everything right to kill that deer. If it was earlier in the season or if you had stud horns, you would have.
So once again, that was a good hunt.
Great,
wonderful.
Yeah,
and then I look back on it and it was. I mean, I almost wonder if it's not better than shooting him.
Yeah.
You know what would have been better if I had his antlers.
Yeah, if you found them.
On the way out of the woods, I stumbled upon his antlers. Could you imagine? That would have been that'd have been it. But yeah, it was cool. Massachusetts is different. I don't know if it's for me.
It's very different. That's
I don't know if it's for me.
It's a lot different than that's one thing I know.
It's a second chance, if you have a bad year.
Well, and that's kind of the way.
Not as successful,
and you bring up a good point because kind of my mentality going into that was, let's say I twist an ankle or I get sick and I don't get to hunt my regular time, now I've at least got a little education down there and a place to go, and it gives me a second chance.
It does. And there's a lot of deer down there. A lot of deer in certain areas and stuff. Yeah.
3 days. I had another 8-pointer. I hunted this little piece the last day. I'd kind of decided I was going to go home because I was burning the candle at both ends at this point. The wife's been gracious enough to let me hunt Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. Now I'm hunting Mass. She's, letting me, but she's not happy. So I get to the truck after hunting this one little piece, and the snow was deep. And there's a little logging job going on, and I talked to the logger. He's a great guy. And I'd taken a little toot up the road, came back down, and looked to the right, and there's this 8-pointer just standing beside the road feeding. And I'm like, are these deer like tame or what? Because so I'm trying to reach for my big camera because my cell phone's charging because it was half dead, and the guy with the logging equipment's coming up the road, and I'm fumbling for my big camera. I've got a big, nice, Anyway, so I never got any footage of him, but he just stood there.
Yeah, watched you, looked at you.
Watched me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. I kind of want to tie it back because what you're talking about here, for like times of the year for people that are listening and learning tracking and stuff, the deer in that late season when we're talking about textbook stuff for it, those deer, that late season stuff is very textbook, right? They're feeding and immediately laying down versus compared to the rut where it's all mayhem and chaos and a deer might run and then stop or chase a doe, look for a doe, do a 90-degree thing and then just keep on going and going. But yeah, you kind of got to judge it off the time of the year and stuff. And
I agree. But I'll say this too, like the doe that I jumped, and I don't know if it's based on gender, but she never stopped running.
Really? Yep.
And again, that brings me back to my point that we talked about before. I think that if you're going to pick up tracking for the first time, be confident in your woodsman skills. Do a little research of the area you're hunting. And when you pick up the track, just go. Go. If you want to run, run. I don't care. Don't roll an ankle on me, but run. Once you jump them, stop. Do the hell blood special. Wait 30 minutes. And then you start hunting. That's when your hunt begins. That's how I roll. And I mean, I've had days where I've tracked bucks and you just can't do that. And that's why I like hunting remote areas so that I'm away from other tracks, because a lot of times you get into so many other tracks. It's a barnyard. You're trying to sort them out. Half your day gets spent into sorting them out, and they cross the road, and the track you saw earlier ends up, and that's all part of it. Don't get discouraged. Just keep going, keep tracking, keep tracking the buck right day. You're going to bump into the right one.
That's a good point. Yeah, like you said, like we when we share stories and stuff, we make it sound so perfect all the time, and stuff. But there's a lot of days where it's just not meant to be. You know, like you track a buck, you catch a buck, but he's behind a blowdown and he bounds one over a hill, you don't get a shot. And there's a lot of that. And that's one thing that people should, if you're learning the game, know that's going to happen. Like, it's not going to happen perfect for you every time.
Every successful story that you guys are hearing right now, there's 55
perfect.
Unsuccessful stories.
Exactly.
But they're all successful stories.
Yeah.
They just
don't result in dragging a deer home.
There's not a dead buck at the end of the hunt, but there's education. You're learning. You're having fun.
Yeah.
And you have hope for tomorrow.
Exactly.
You know?
And you have, you know, like we talked about it earlier, like how many times have you been in an area and you find the dude and he's 4 days old?
Yeah.
You can't freshen him up. You're looking, but you know what you're going to do? You're going to learn as much about him as you can, because when you do freshen him up, guess what? I know where you live now, dude, and you're gonna have a better opportunity of harvesting that.
And you're gonna learn more from those deer that you track from daylight to dark, that take you up and over the mountain, through a saddle, through bedding areas, through thickets, versus the deer that you track for a couple hours and then kill. You know, there's
that suffrage thing. I love suffering in a weird way. The more I suffer, the more joy I get in the hunt, and you know that ties back into the whole, like, you know, not using cameras and just going out and doing it, because the reward that you get, there's nothing like it. Like, and it's amazing. And, you know, Steve Ranella on his podcast, Meat Eater there, he talks a lot about, like, the suffrage. And I love to look for moose antler sheds. And I've done probably 60, 70 miles this year already on my snowshoes. I haven't even been around moose. But I love it.
Yeah.
It's about the suffrage.
Suffering, and that's where you're going to grow from. That's where you're going to learn from. Is that right there?
That deer that you suffer on, it might be a forkhorn, but it was amazing. You dragged him 10 miles through rivers and swamps, and it's the hunt. It's the suffrage.
Yeah. You learn about yourself in that too. More than the deer, you learn about yourself, what you're capable of, and everything.
Yeah, what your limits are and what. Yeah.
He kind of touched on it for people that are getting the track, and, you know, he said learn your woodsmanship skills and the persistence and everything. What's your big tip for somebody that wants to get into it and wants to learn? What would you suggest to them if you could boil it down? Like, you know.
Well, first of all, just enjoying being out in the woods. And the fact of getting a deer or harvesting a deer that's the ultimate reward. But there's so many other rewards in hunting. Just the country you see, the people you're with, the people you meet. You know, hunting that are like-minded, are all awesome people, and. But just get out there and start to figure it out on your own. You know, look for deer tracks. Look at what other animals do. You know, look for beds, learn beds. We were helping a friend of ours who lost his dog. You know, his dog got on a hike, got lost, and we were out walking through the woods. If you have a person that you can take out and show some of this stuff to, you know, you're going to give them an advantage over trying to figure it out on their own.
Okay.
So I encourage them to find somebody that's willing to take them. And as an accomplished hunter, I encourage accomplished hunters to first of all, take a kid hunting, but take a friend that just never had the opportunity. A lot of people grew up not with anti-hunters, but with people that just didn't hunt. Their work schedules didn't allow them to hunt, their time, their money. But just take somebody hunting and show them. Mike, the guy I was walking around the woods with, you know, he's going, okay, that's a deer bed, and that's where his elbow was, and he was so excited just to learn that stuff. And he would never shoot a deer if you put one in front of him, but he had so much fun just walking around the woods. And you know, just take the time and introduce somebody to that is what I would say. Take them mushroom hunting and then show them what the animals do in the woods when you're out there.
I think the thing a lot of people don't realize about hunters is, one, how much we care about the animal.
Oh yeah, that's a big.
Like on nights like tonight,
I'm thinking about the deer today.
Like when I'm moose antler shed hunting, I'm like, what is this thing doing up here on top of a 2,500 foot mountain, like living?
It's incredible, isn't it?
Chewing on fir trees all day, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the connection that we have with the planet. And I don't want to get too deep on everybody here, but there is a sense of connection. I don't know if everybody experiences it. I know I do. It's just about being out there and enjoying the vast wilderness. I'm not talking like the suburbs. I'm not talking about it's so not about killing an animal.
No.
I mean, the protein and the sustenance and all that's wonderful, and I'm going to have some tonight for dinner.
Yeah.
But the the connection, the solitude, the silence. And again, like I said, when you're tracking, there's nothing like it. You're so connected with that thing, that goal, that task. Your brain shut off. And for me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is the solitude of being out in the woods on your own. There's nobody else that's going to help you out of the woods. You got to figure your way out of the woods and stuff. So, learn your woodsmanship, learn your compass, use a GPS.
Be confident.
Be confident.
Yeah.
And take it baby steps. Go over the ridge today. Go a little farther tomorrow, and it's really not that difficult when you get out there and start learning it.
And if you see my Tacoma, hunt somewhere else.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, no, everything takes time. Big woods hunting, tracking, everything takes time. The more deer you track, the better you're going to be. The more you're going to learn. It takes time. It's an art, And if you're new to tracking, don't get frustrated with you don't get to do the first few.
We've hunted with the grandsons and nephews to him and grandsons to me, and I'll take them and follow a doe track. I mean, with no intention of shooting this deer, but let's go see if we can see this deer.
Yeah, let's learn.
And that's so exciting. If we did it, we saw him. We only saw his tail, but we saw him. And that's, you just build all those pieces, and eventually you learn how to do it and become like Travis, and you might shoot one. Yeah, you take enough bullets with you.
I mean, I tracked that one with Drew that year, and I mean, he was 11, tracked him for like 5 miles, and with an 11-year-old, we were successful in tracking down and killing a big buck.
Is he hooked now?
He into it? He was until he got hooked on a different species.
Okay, gotcha.
He's chasing a different species now. It's called females.
Okay, yeah, well, it happens at that age.
But they're starting to come back, because the older one is 22, is now he's back ready to hunt.
Yeah.
And,
he's never going to forget that, big woods tracking experience like that. That's
I know I won't.
No, you said that's a top memory for you there, isn't it?
That's the one.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had another really good one with Cole. He shot a big 8-pointer with me, still hunting on bare ground. But I mean, that tracking experience, like when you set off on the track, there was no expectation of shooting the deer. It was just like he said, "Let's go have some fun. Let's have an experience. Maybe we'll see it." Then we got him. It's just like
happened.
Pinch me. I'm dreaming.
Yeah.
And then we were like 4 miles from the truck, and took 4 of us to drag him out, and just the camaraderie, and he was there.
And the funny part about that hunt too is actually it was youth weekend. It was my wife's birthday, so we went on a Caribbean vacation during youth hunt.
Yeah.
So we're down sitting on the beach, and it's driving me crazy knowing that it's youth hunting this weekend, and all of a sudden I get a text with a picture with my grandson with this big 8-pointer holding his rack in his hands, and I'm looking, and my wife goes, "Oh, aren't you happy?" I said, "Right now, no, I'm bummed. I'm bummed I wasn't there to see that."
Yeah.
But I'll get home and I'll get to see it because it's on the wall. So.
Yeah.
And again on that one, and kids when they're in that age, they're not super affectionate, especially to their uncle. And he literally turned, looked at me. It never probably happened again in my life, and just says, "I love you," and jumped into my arms.
Yeah.
Special moment right there. Nobody's ever going to take that from you.
Well,
no.
Another moment like that too is when I was hunting with my oldest grandson, Bailey, when he shot his first one.
Yeah.
We shot the deer. There was a whole story behind that, but we shot the deer. I called Travis, his uncle, and you were in tears. Mm-hmm. Just he was so excited that he got that deer.
Oh, there's a little backstory. My nephew Bailey's deaf. He's got cochlear in one ear, and it was just special that and he got to experience it with his grandfather, who he's very close with, and that's the thing that other people will never understand, like the bond that it brings,
right?
And that was a special moment. I was driving to work, and I had to pull over.
Yeah, and the funny part about that too was we were walking into the woods, at crack of dawn, and we're walking into the woods, and he looks at me, he goes, "Grandpa, my batteries are dead in my cochlear." Which means now he can't hear in one side, and he's got a hearing aid in the other side, which he can hear a little bit. And I said, "Listen, Grandpa's old, and I can't hear for shit either. So we're going to have to just look." And he ended up shooting a deer.
Wow.
Spike one. Yeah.
Teamwork there.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that's probably a good way to wrap it up there.
I think it's a great way.
That was
a lot of stories, a lot of fun. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks a lot
for
everything
you're doing.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Talk about what we love to
podcast
do.
Keep it up.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys are going to love this one. So thanks, guys.
All right, thanks a lot.
You bet.